No. Ooh, okay. I won't do it then. Fine, gosh. Hello, everybody. Hi, welcome. I guess I'm feeling good. Breathing in that good Plutonian rebirth, transformation. It's definitely feeling like a time to. What's that song? Footloose. Ooh, Three of Pentacles. Okay, the Hierophant was already at the bottom of the deck. Oh, that card just like bam, bam. Bam, bam. Ooh, Four of Wands with the Hierophant. Okay, so the Three of Pentacles, the Four of Wands. What else? What else? The Magician. Okay, now with the Four of Wands. So I'm going to be looking around the King of Cups and the King of Wands as that sort of in between space in the Judgment card that came out today. Day 10, X, Judgment, what did I title it? Catching Sight of a Water Sprite. To see kind of sort of that space between the self and the soul. And I'm just going to shuffle this up until it feels good. And just like last time when I looked between the Queen of Swords and the Queen of Cups, however many cards are between the King of Wands and the King of Cups, that's how many cards we're going to get. I just got like a little nauseous for some reason. I'm like, oh gosh. Oh, okay, work. Who is it? We have a messenger. The Page of Swords. I kind of like the Page of Swords because air is an energy. It's like evaporated water, right? Between water and fire. I'm going to put my readers back on. I don't know why, but. What is her message, though? I mean, I guess I'll leave this off. It's the Three of Cups, the Kindred. Okay. So this is all about people coming together with their own visions. Because in this deck, they each have their own cup, and this is a card of hydromancy. And the Three of Wands, it's like three masculine figures with ram heads depicting Emperor energy. These have Empress energy. They come together and they each have their own wand, but they're gazing into the same fire of pyromancy. And so it's a space of collective vision. Bottom of the deck is the Four of Swords. And so it's like we don't necessarily have to do anything. We don't have to do everything on our own because we're creating communities that support, right? Even if they have their own visions, Nine of Pentacles, everyone is sort of independent and we can support one another. And supporting, like being independent doesn't mean that there aren't people that you can rely on, right? But you know, we can support each other even if we have different like angles or whatever. Okay, let's do three more of these. No jumpers, please. Usually I don't have to tell a deck not to jump. It's like they only jump when I don't want them to. That's not true. Okay. So I'm going to start from the top this time. First card is the High Priestess, the Keeper, and the Ace of Pentacles. Okay. So I'm only going to take the cards between the King of Wands and the King of Cups, but I always note the first like three out. The High Priestess and the Keeper, this is like that hush hush, hush 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 energy. The High Priestess is secrets. The Keeper is the Awakened Fool. It's only hush hush to people who like aren't in the know. Long cards. LOL. That comes later. It's only hush hush for people who aren't in the know. The Keeper is the fool who is capable of understanding and actually having a conversation with the High Priestess. The Fool is us. The energies are the energies. And this deck, I love it because you get the Green Man Fool who's like fresh, hasn't necessarily mastered anything. You get the Seeker who's mastered some of it but is seeking more information. The Keeper has made her way through the majors from magician to world, and she's integrated every single piece. That's why she's the keeper. She comes into this mystical, magical sort of energy, and she's sitting there with the high priestess. And so she knows what's up. And then with this Ace of Pentacles card, the bread of life in this deck, I see that pentacle is like forming from this void space. It's like literally being created. And this fool is a part of that conversation. Oh gosh. Maybe I should. Oh, and look, and then now we begin. And I love that the King of Wands came out first because that's the soul space. This is the soul space, and it's coming out right after this little conversation right here. Oh goodness. Okay. So I was going like I don't know, but let's get into this. So in this deck, the King of Wands is the Archangel of Glory, who is the angel of art and grace. It is Raphael, right? Gabriel. It's Gabriel because Gabriel has the trumpet. There are also scrolls. There's literature. It's just art and creativity in general. And it carries this energy of the pen is mightier than the sword. But it does nothing if its message doesn't reach its intended audience, right? I guess. It's not that it does nothing, but word has to be engaged with. And that's so interesting because I'm watching a show, an anime. And when this concept came up in the anime, I just knew. Well, for me, it was one of those things that I see and it's like, well, this is interesting. How could I integrate something like this into my own life, right? But there's this kingdom outside of the main kingdom that we follow. It's a show about magic. And their magic is on a completely different level. But that's because they use like natural mana instead of only using the mana that they're born with. And there's a lot of discrimination in the main kingdom because the royals are born with an abundance of mana and peasants are born with not as much. And those people who don't have as much magic in a world that's completely magic focused, it's not great. Their experiences aren't great. And some of them were actually willing to turn to the power of a devil girl because it's like, oh, the devil will give us some power. And then we won't be at the bottom rung of this world that spits on us and treats us like garbage because we weren't born blessed with a natural magical ability of a larger pool of mana to pull from. And I'm like, wow, okay, well. And what was so wild about that was like there's one character in that show who makes it as far as he does because of his hard work and his determination and because he never gives up, regardless of the fact that he doesn't have any mana at all. He can't use magic at all. At least the other people, they're like, all I can do is combine other people's magic. Well, at least you got that. Hello, he ain't got nothing. He had it worse than them. Made it further than they did. And it just so happened that, there is a devil that lives in his magic book. And we don't know where that one came from. But now they're like, oh, see, well, look what he did with the power of the devil and whatever. He was like, well, I'm not like y'all. So those people, they were like, we're going to go to this other kingdom. We're going to get the power of the devil. And then we're going to come back and destroy this one because you treated us like trash. And he's like, I'm not like y'all. Because unlike y'all, like I suffered the same fate that y'all suffered, but I didn't allow that to turn me bitter and to stir feelings of hatred within me to the point where I'm now trying to get my revenge. Like I'm protecting the people of this kingdom. I'm not like y'all at all. And then in a more recent episode, he's like, because I am strong of heart, this is a power that doesn't consume me. Anyway, that aside, in the new kingdom, they use it, they're called like mana words. And they work with the energy, the mana and nature around them instead of just what is within them. And so when done properly, it's like they never run out of mana. They never run out of magical power juice because they don't use their own. They cooperate with nature. And nature never runs dry. Never runs dry. And it was this concept of like mana words. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, but I've been talking for a minute about like how the energies are shifting in certain directions, and those things are supported. So if you're working with energy that's supported, there's a lot of things that are going to happen more effortlessly that don't require as much on your part. But it may require a little bit of, I guess, I don't know, creativity to work with it to the point where it's like you're working with it to get what you still want or something. I don't know. I just thought it was like the concept of mana words was just interesting to me because the power of word is huge, and it's working with natural energies that are already there. The next card is New World Order. I love New World Order because this is the world coming into a space that these two have privy to. It's like these two speak in a language of spaces instead of speaking in a language of physicality. And I talked a little bit about stuff like that today. It's interesting. New World Order followed by the Queen of Swords. Okay. And the Queen of Swords was holding the energy of the mental space where the cleaners operate. And so this New World Order, to me, this is sitting in an energy above what we have sort of like clearance of. It exists outside of our realm of thought. So again, it's like it's there and it's happening regardless of how closely you are aligned to it. And if you align to it, it pushes things even further, which would be amazing. Next is the Knight of Pentacles. So the Shining Quarry. This isn't necessarily an energy. It's looking back at this. So I do like that. In general, though, the Shining Quarry is typically an energy that's slower. The Knight of Pentacles is like the slowest knight in the deck. Well, even the slowest knight in the deck in this deck has wings, so hey. But there's this energy with the scarab here representing a solar deity, so taking us back to the sun. There's an energy here that needs to see it before it can believe it. Or it's an energy because it's looking immediately at this Queen of Swords. So it defers to its own ability to comprehend things rather than being more fully present in this cycle. It's like as an earth element, a connected earth element is extremely spiritual. Because like all of the elements are spiritual, but like earth is literally like the manifestation of spiritual energy and all of these other energies. Without consciousness driving it like nothing really happens. And so it's like this would be the earth energy, or not necessarily this one, but higher aligned earth energy would be the one where it's like, you know, the weather is sunny, everything is clear, but they're like, it's gonna rain later today. Like they just know. Because they're that in tune with the minute, extremely minor shifts within the natural world. And it's an energy, honestly, it's an earth sage energy. It's an energy that can get to that level of enlightenment without needing texts and books and gurus and teachers, because the world is your teacher if you pay attention. If you pay attention, you don't need anyone to tell you anything because the world plays it all out for you. Next, we're coming into the Ace of Cups. So it's looking away from the Ace of Cups. And look, oh, white dove. There's that large white dove. Where's the eagle? Oh, the eagle is here in the world card. Come through. Who was that? Libra? And I remember I watched Good Omens, and they were like, the Earth is Libra. I was like, what? Oh, that makes sense. I can see it from the communal community sort of perspective. The Earth being a Libra. With this Ace of Cups, it feels like there's an energy of something that we're avoiding. Because the Ace of Cups in this deck, for me, especially in a context like this one, it's all about, it's that spiritual sensory deprivation tank. It's all about dissolving the many layers of the ego and even the spirit and the mental. It's the dissolution of all the bodies. And it's putting ourselves back together separate from all of the extra stuff that was put onto us. And there's good and bad in all. But it goes also back into that energy of contextualization. Because if we can contextualize the bad, then it's like we can turn the venom into an antidote, turn the poison into an antidote. All things within the proper balance have a potential for some good. Most things in proper balance have the potential for good, and anything in excess can be bad. But this Knight of Pentacles, again, it's looking away from this. It's like, because we're not as willing to do the work, because we stick, so it's like, because of the difficulty in creating mental and emotional / spiritual shifts, it keeps us under the current of this energy. And so if I'm talking about the projection, there are layers that I want to say we put on, but it would make more sense to say we take off. It's like if you wanted to put on an outfit virtually and holograms were a thing, then you could stand in front of a mirror and then have the hologram, the hologram projector project the clothes onto your body to see what you would look like in them. But it's like, you haven't unlocked shirts yet because you haven't looked in at this, and you haven't unlocked pants yet because you haven't looked at that, and you haven't unlocked accessories because you haven't like looked at this other thing. And so it's like, you're like, well, why isn't this projector working? Like, I'm still standing in front of the mirror in my underwear. And it's like, the projector can only project an image that it's loaded with. So if you haven't loaded that image into your projector, you're not going to be able to project it out into your reality. And you can manifest and think it and do all these things that you want, but until you cue it up, it's not going to play. And again, with this scarab, it's just bringing an energy of like basically an eclipse. But it's not an eclipse. It's just like, just so focused in things that you see and have already seen that you don't follow spirit when they're like, hey, come over here. Like, I can show you something. Like, if you need proof, I will give you proof. I can show you the world, and I will if you hop on the carpet, but you ain't got to. And it's like, oh, I've seen enough of the world, I'm good. And it's like, girl, like, what do you mean? What do you mean you've seen enough of the world? You've seen enough of the world to put a... Okay, anyway. Let's move on. Well, next is the Memory Keeper. The Six of Cups. Six of Chalices. And this is Sun and Scorpio energy. This is the first, like, non-ace, non-court minor arcana that we have. It's the Six of Cups. And I love that this is the Sun in Scorpio, because that is that energy of rebirth. These, the Phoenix and the Dragon, are in the Lover's card and in the Devil card. It's the feminine and the masculine energy in this deck. Here, under this New World Order, it's being reborn. And it's getting a chance to live life all over again. Can y'all hear the vacuum and Chino in the back? Oh, well. If you can, you can. If you can't, why did I mention it? There's an energy of rebirth here, but it starts at this Ace of Cups, which is right here. that we have our head turned away from here. And also, both the phoenix and the dragon can fly. And so instead of it being like an eagle and a large white dove turning into each other, it's this large white dove and this phoenix and the dragon. And also, it's not. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is in here. Where is it? I know the white dove is in this card somewhere. Oh, it's at the bottom. There it is. You see, there's a large white dove descending. And then here it is going down to that Ace of Cups. Like, this would be the aspect of your higher self. The part of you that is connected to all that there is. This is that spark of the divine that we all created in the image of. It's right there. And it comes before the Ace of Pentacles. But then, look, see that Ace of Pentacles? And then look, there that Ace of Pentacles is right there. With that Six of Cups energy, that's the rebirth. And again, it's like something can't be reborn until it dies. It can't be made new until it's released. This Six of Cups, it carries this energy of, and again, it goes back to the limitations between this queen, and it goes back to the limitations as it goes back to the limitations that the Queen of Swords is speaking of, that this Knight of Pentacles keeps referring to. It's like whenever we come into the space of like, oh, things are about to improve, things are getting better. It's like instead of looking towards the future for this new thing that the divine has to offer us or that the divine is trying to lead us to, we go back to the past. And it's like, sometimes it is the case, sometimes it's not the case, where it's like, you know, your person is someone that you've already met and someone that it didn't work out with a while ago. Or, I just had another one, but I lost it. It's like whenever we want to be happy again, like we go back to something that like, this was the happiest moment in my life. Like, I want to go back to those days. Like the first few years of my marriage, everything was perfect. Like, I want to go back to that. Because the last 10 years of our marriage hasn't been that great. Or like, when I was in this space, when I was making that much money, like I was so happy. It's like we always look back instead of looking forward. And the Tower is coming out. And here's some more, well, it's Scorpio through rulership of Mars. So here's some more Martian energy. Sun and Scorpio into the Tower. It's like, not only did that fall apart for a reason, but like it just popped into my mind. It's like the best way to honor the past is to learn from it. And I guess in an ideal world, you would have grown and you would have changed since whatever was in the past was in the past. And would you really like give all of that up to go back to something that would probably fall apart again? Because if it were capable of lasting the first time, it would have. And that's not to say that it won't come back and be better. But if it comes back and it's better, it's because you are better. And because whatever else is involved is a better fit. It's not because you sacrificed everything and you went back to before it fell apart in the first place. Also, but this sitting under the Scarlet Shield is asking us to question, or to at least look at and observe a lot of the thought patterns that we had before. And these two, to me, at least how I'm experiencing it so far, that's Mercury retrograde Aquarius energy. Reflecting on the environment, and here's that Six of Cups too. Reflecting on the environment and like both physical, mental, and emotional that led you to make certain choices at certain times, or why you saw something as more valid at the time that you saw it. And if you put that as it was, in the truth of as it was, not in the rosy, rose tinted, nostalgic view you have, or not in that trauma based view that you have. Because the Six of Cups for me, a lot of times it's nostalgia, but excuse me, yeah, it can also be trauma. It's looking at the past, but not with, it's like not a complete picture. It's either the dark of the past or the light of the past. And this right here, it's like you should have grown since then. So if this comes back, is it something that as you are now and as it was then, is that a match? Now, maybe like you were the problem in that. And so maybe if you project yourself back and you're like, well, I'm the one who sort of like ruined this and I'm the one who sabotaged it. So if I got it back, yeah, like I would be good. And then in that case, it's kind of sort of different, but still it's the same. You know what? Let me remove myself from this because this is a you thing. And it's not necessarily good or bad. I think it's just a question, honestly. I don't have to project a potential answer onto this because I think it's for you to think about and consider as these things come back. Because if it's yes, then it's yes. Well, then we're coming out with the Six of Wands. So, yeah, like you have grown. You are victorious. It's not because of self, like it's not, it didn't come easily. Like the sixth staff is like jabbed into her leg and she's bleeding, but look at her. Why is that like I am beautiful in every single way? um, but this is also a card of a prophecy coming to fruition in a way that wasn't initially expected. Going back to that Three of Wands rather than that Three of Cups energy, the Three of Wands, the politic, the three wise men came together, and it was prophesied that there would be a new crown prince. The competition for the throne happened at the Five of Wands, and the crowning, the winner of that competition, happens at the Six. But they discover that the prince is actually a princess, and so there is here, if one of the things that didn't necessarily work out in the past was us being more in an energy that we saw as one that would promote upward mobility or expansion. Maybe we were trying to be the version of ourselves that somebody else liked, or a version of ourselves that somebody else would want to hire, or whatever. There's an energy here of not being completely. Is this a little horse? Hold on, wait, what is this? I've never noticed this little horse. Oh, it's like I'm a little horse. And that little horse energy, maybe there's something that will be communicated. It may be a little difficult. It's like whenever you try to say it, your voice gives out and your knees get a little wobbly and you get a little nauseous, but like, hey, you deserve it. You deserve it. Go for it. Jupiter and Leo. Jupiter's in Aquarius right now, so that's a Jupiter opposition. Um, and again, it's an energy of things working out, but maybe just not in the way that you initially expected or planned. I'm curious what's at the bottom of the deck, but I'm not gonna look yet because if it's the King of Cups at the bottom of this deck, girl, I'm not gonna look yet. Oh, I'll look. I won't look. I'll look. I'll look. It's justice. Okay. It's justice. So it's not what you originally expected, but it is like this is the proper ending. It's going to be the way it should have worked out with this justice card. I'm glad I looked at it now. Because with this being a Libran energy, it would sextile this Leo energy, which is an opportunity for things to work out. But if we don't, it's an opportunity that, like, if we don't take, then nothing happens. But it also trines where Jupiter is now in Aquarius. And a trine is like, ready or not, here I come. And a trine can be either good or bad. A lot of times it's like, oh, it's a trine, so it's good. For us, a trine can be either difficult or easy, right? Like if you have a Pluto trine, I don't know if Pluto is necessarily an energy that a lot of people want to have like easy access to them. But it was taking me back somewhere, but I forgot. The trine to Jupiter in Aquarius, the sextile to the Jupiter in Leo. I don't know where that was going to take me. I lost it. But it works out even better. And again, like you've grown since then. There have been many victories. Like if it resonates, it resonates. If it doesn't, it's not. So I'm going to go with what's being presented. You've grown since then. You've conquered many things. You found victory. You've been able to break your own chains. And it's like if you continue to look back, why would you want to sort of go back to a space of subjugation when that wasn't necessarily the case? After that is this Two of Pentacles. And this is that it's another Jupiter energy, Jupiter in Capricorn. And Jupiter was just in Capricorn conjuncting Pluto. And so there is a little bit of the path has already been set type of energy here. But that's the thing about challenges. Challenges may be hard and they may be difficult, but they are the opportunities that provide us the most growth. And it's like if you never learn, how are you expected to do anything? And also with going back to the projector, I love this because this also puts us in a space to be someone who we would not have been had this not happened. This is a major unlocking of many different layers. And with the Two of Pentacles coming off of that energy, this is going to be us. It's almost an energy of figuring out how to re-navigate the world. It is an energy of figuring out how to re-navigate the world, because instead of navigating the world from this South Node energy, where we are tied to like our traumas and so heavily focused on the past, and we're not able to look forward because everything that we believe that we want is already behind us. Not only does that extremely limit what you're able to experience, unless you've it's a limit of experience regardless. Oh, hey Zelda. I was like into this. I didn't even. I'm sorry. Hey, I hope you have fun with your daughter. You know, we're all going through a lot right now. So who's to say? No problem, Zelda. I wish I could give you answers, but without him to tell you why it happened, I guess it would be difficult. So this is us learning to navigate the world from this new space. And this, like, with the Six of Wands here, I remember a long time ago, I met an older couple who were amazing through a mentor. He was like, my mentor was like, I have a nephew whose grandparents are a little older and they're kind of sort of looking for somebody to help around the house. Oh my God. Oh, that's hilarious. That is hilarious. I'm gonna have to tell my mom about that later. But it was cool. They were cool. But they smoked a lot. And I had to clean that filter in the basement. And I was like gagging trying to clean that thing. I was like, oh. Anyway, I met them. And then within a few months, one of them had passed. And then the other one passed. And the little hurt me who has all of these abandonment issues because the people who I get are the people who I got closest to growing up would like move away or would leave my life. And as soon as I got close to somebody else, then they would leave too. So I'm like, well, why would the divine put these people in my life to literally within months just like take them away from me? Like, how am I supposed to believe that everything happens for a reason when that just happened? Like, what is the reason? And so for a long time, I was like, some things can happen for a reason. Maybe. Where am I going with this, Patrick? Don't get lost. Don't get lost in the. Maybe that's a message for you. Don't get lost in the nostalgia and the memories. Don't lose sight of where it is that you're going, because it could be easy to get lost back there. That's where I was, because it was the staff and the knee. It's like eventually within the last 2 years especially, I was like, there were a few really difficult situations, a few of note in particular, and it really got to me. And instead of like getting angry or bitter, or instead of allowing like negative emotions to come into a space where I was hurt and vulnerable, it was like the significance of that experience. I was like, I refuse to let any kind of negative emotion come into this space and taint this experience. And even if things don't happen for a reason, I'm going to create a reason, because I refuse to let this experience be in vain. And that's one of the things that within the past year, it really sort of like jump started, re energized, revamped a lot of the drive that I had. And I also had to take accountability. And for me personally, it was just like, I don't know, it was just like I refuse to let this be in vain. I refuse to let this make me bitter. I refuse to have this situation like lead me to choose to close my heart again. I refuse to not grow and become an even better version of me. Because even if this isn't it or wasn't it or doesn't come back, what this has done for me is like, if I can get this as I am now, imagine how much better I can get as I become better. And so for me personally, it weighted the scale a lot more heavier on the North Node side of things. which is that growth, which is that progression, which is putting distance between you and everything that you know. At this Two of Pentacles, and even up here with the Queen of Swords and the Knight of Pentacles, your comfort could be your biggest blockage here. And now we're coming into the Knight of Cups under this Six of Cups. And again, it's another one looking at the past. But after this, I feel like it's a contextualization of the past. And it's kind of sort of like finding the spiritual reason, finding the lesson behind, and like maybe even finding the reasons why this thing didn't work out the first time. But honestly, in this column, like there's this flowing energy, and it's this Two of Pentacles, because with New World Order and the Six of Cups, it's like there's the New World and then there's the Old World. And the Knight of Cups here is it's transitioning between the two. I don't like that it's looking away from the Eight of Swords. Okay, the King of Pentacles is here. The Archangel Mysteries. Alright. The thing that I don't like about it looking away from the Eight of Swords is I feel like, and look, here's Jupiter and Gemini. So, out of the 1, 2, 3, 4 minor arcana cards that aren't court cards or aces, 3 of them are Jupiter. Jupiter in Leo, Jupiter in Capricorn, Jupiter in Gemini. This is all about opportunity, and it's all about expansion, and it's all about growth. And then the Sun in Scorpio was right here. That's the only other card. And the Sun in Scorpio was like, do you choose death or do you choose rebirth? Is this where you end? Is this where you stop? Are you going to believe that the best of your days are behind you? Will you limit the rest of your future in that regard and in that way? Now here's Jupiter sitting on top of the North Node in Gemini. And it's another sextile to that Jupiter and Leo champion energy. No, in this, the reason why I initially didn't like it is because with the horse not facing the Eight of Swords, it kind of sort of felt like us not being willing to see what it is that holds us back. And it's repeating cycles, because you're going to repeat it until you see it and you resolve it and you work through it. But in this context, it's carrying an energy of refusing to be trapped by this. And it's looking towards this king. Either the king or the Ace of Pentacles, or it's looking towards something that I don't even know. There's a relief of the sun at the top of this card. This is the only unicorn in the deck. And it's the twin horse to the horse of death. Now, my theory with this deck is that the horse of death sacrificed its horn for the reaper to be able to make its scythe. And so the scythe in the death card is made of a unicorn's horn. Because it's the, I mean, if it's the twin horse to a unicorn, it had to have been a unicorn at some point, right? Unless it was a random genetic mutation that made this one a unicorn and the other one not a unicorn. But I like the first story better. And so then this unicorn's horn holds some kind of death-like power, some kind of power to cross boundaries and barriers and dimensions from the world of the living to the world of the not living. And so it carries an energy to sort of like cut through dimensions. but it's still intact in this one. Now, this coming off of this energy, it can completely submerge us in whatever it is that we are believing. But with this Eight of Swords into the Archangel of Mysteries, it carries this energy of like, once we're able to liberate and free ourselves, then it gives us an ability to like peer into the darkness of others. And also, it's an angel. This is the angel from the Temperance card that's trapped behind these. And Temperance is Sagittarius. So here is Jupiter on the North Node, Temperance is Jupiter on the South Node. But with that like divine timing, like just wait energy that Temperance carries, like just waiting is not going to be enough. And one thing that I love that I just noticed, it's that one of these swords, it's like it's starting to rust or it's starting to crumble or something like that. Oh, wait, there on that side, you see it? All of the other swords are fairly intact, but that one is starting to break. And it only takes one sword to fall out of line for this entire house of cards to fall apart. And it's like it allows us to contextualize our entire lives. The outlaw sitting on top of the nocturne. Well, here's another Jupiter energy. Jupiter, water, Pisces. No, this is Neptune, not Jupiter, sorry. This is Neptune. He has one eye of the sun, one eye of the moon. We see the little fish right here, little fish skeleton. Relief, we see the swan. Right there, we see the snake. And we see the Ankh. So this is life. I feel like there's so much like back and forth in this. Because this is the life that we knew. And with this outlaw hangman energy, again, it's like being stuck up here, not able to see or perceive of anything beyond what it is that we've expired, not able to conceive of a love that could be better, or a life that could be more full of joy, a job that can be more fulfilling, a life that is just that. It was that, what, Aries and Cancer? No, it was Cancer. Happiness and contentment and luxury. Aries was more gifts than you have the ability to hold. And I love that I was talking about how infinite the mind can be, where it can encompass planets and galaxies and universes all from the confines of your skull. It holds dimensionality beyond its physical container. But I guess a limited mind is, in some ways, just as impressive. That something could be literally playing out in front of you in one way, but because of the way you perceive it, it happens in a completely different way. The power to alter and bend and shape and reform reality, where you will see, hear, and experience things that may not even be there. And it's like, check what you're projecting. Check what you project type of energy. Because only one of his eyes are open. Now, in balance, it's an energy. This is a card of like lots and lots of balance, right? It's like with one eye open, one eye closed, you can see both the inside and the outside world. at the same time with the eye of the moon and the eye of the sun. With life here, I love that he's not like untethered. So even though he is upside down, even though his perspective is completely out of phase with a lot of the majority, he still has this connection to life. So he may be the hangman and maybe Neptunian energy, but it's not completely ungrounded. What do we have the most of right now? Water, water, water. So 3 waters. I don't know. It's like water and fire. I don't feel like counting these. I don't know. Next is the Page of Cups. So the Page of Cups is sitting on top of this Knight of Cups. Still no king. So we continue moving on. The Page of Cups is a messenger. The Page of Cups it's like an emissary. It's like the eyes for that king. And it feels like it's an energy that kind of sort of reports on our progress. It snitches on you. It's a snitch. It's the snitch of spirit. Where it's like, okay, are they ready for the next phase, or are they still like doing whatever it is that they were doing? Also, this could be an energy of things trying to be presented to you. Like trying to show you more, trying to show you better. And with this Page of Cups, Stronghold of the Girl coming off of the water in the Outlaw, it's like a subconscious pool. Or it's a deep pool. Where's it pulling you to? The 3 of Swords. 3 of Swords on top of the 8 of Swords, on top of the Tower, on top of the Queen of Swords, who is stuck in her way of thinking. This is Saturn in Libra. So now let's throw Saturn into the mix. I guess we've had all the Jupiter that we're going to get. Besides the Wheel of Fortune, right? What I'm noticing here is this headdress. So it has a little bit of a Hathor energy. But the headdress immediately gave me Sphinx energy. So it's like figuring out the riddles of all of the hurt in the past. It's again with this Page of Cups that was like, are they seeing it yet? Are they ready yet? It's sort of getting us to see how we've dealt with or handled these things, or how we are doing it and handling it. And it also carries a little bit of an Isis energy for me, honestly, with this 3 of Swords, where Osiris had been killed by, I think, Set, and his pieces like cut him up, spread him all over the earth, because he knew that Isis was Isis. He knew who Osiris was connected to. And he probably knew that eventually Osiris would come back, but because of Isis having the ability to bring him back to life, but in him cutting up Osiris and spreading his pieces all over the world, his return was delayed. And in the delaying of Osiris, Set had more energy. Set had more time to be running things before he was, I think, and he was eventually challenged by the Chorus, maybe? The son of Isis and Osiris. My Egyptian mythology is extremely rusty, so I'll follow it as it's coming to me. And if it's wrong, I apologize. But it's how it's coming to me, and it's coming to me for a reason. This 3 of Swords is carrying an energy of like, your heart can go on, and it will if you choose. But the delay here, it allows chaos to run rampant for longer. And then the 10 of Cups is sitting on top of this. On top of the King of Pentacles, Archangel of Mysteries. on top of the Champion Six of Wands, and also on top of the Knight of Pentacles. So eventually you will reach this. It's, again, this delay, it's depending on how hard you hold on to the things of the past and your mental and everything like that. Right. But again, with that Six of Wands, like, you're not who you used to be. You're much more capable now. But again, with this Archangel of Mysteries, is taking me back to the energy of contextualizing what we didn't see at that Eight of Swords, the captive, or the captor. And this, the joyous one, Mars and Pisces. Hey, so this is our second Martian energy. We got Saturn on the board twice in the world and in the bereaved. Jupiter is on the board 3 times in the Champion, the Nocturne, and the Captor. Mars is on the board twice in the Tower and the Joyous One here. The Sun is on the board once in the Memory Keeper, and nothing else has an association. Now, the Page of Cups is just water in general, and we have water here. Also Neptune, more modernly. The Ace of Cups is also just water. Virgo in the Shining Quarry. Libra in the Scarlet Shield. Taurus in the Archangel of Mysteries. I don't know why I'm running through these. Pisces in the Shining Dew. But this Isis energy here, it's bringing us back to life. It's putting us back together. It's like it may have been delayed because our heart was shattered in so many pieces in the past that it took us a while to get it all back together. But the Ten of Cups is what we're capable of living now. And with this, maybe there is an individual, or was an individual in your life, who, I feel like what's special about this is it's not an energy that tries to erase pain. It's an energy that comes in and it challenges you to strive despite the pain and despite the past. Because again, it's about moving forward. And maybe it challenges you to elevate into that champion energy. I gotta get on Duolingo today. Sorry. That's one of the things that I've been doing lately because I want to learn Japanese again. And I think I've talked about it. And I'm using it as practice. So I get on a few times a day. And yesterday I didn't do as much because I got mad. Because it said I was wrong, and I don't think I was wrong, but maybe that's a me thing. Because it was like I eat dinner at 7:00 p.m. And so I put Shiji Gogo ni Bango Hano Tabemasu. And they were like, incorrect. It should be Gogo Shiji ni Bango Hano Tabemasu. And I was so flustered the first time I got it wrong. And it was the only thing I got wrong in that lesson. So it literally repeated like 3 times back to back. But I got it wrong the second time because I was like, nobody says it this way, but I want to pass this lesson, so I'm going to do it the way that they want it, even though I've never, in all of my years of taking Japanese, I've heard it Gogo Shiji ni. But then maybe again, that's the limited perception that I'm having of every time I heard it because I want to be right in the situation. But anyway, the second time I was so like, whatever, that I forgot the ni part. And so I got it wrong again. And I was like, I did it the way they told me. Why did it say I got it wrong? And then I look at it, it's like, oh, okay, I forgot the ni. Okay, so let me calm down. Let me calm down. And for that, because y'all know I take a metaphor in anything and everything. Maybe in the past there was this energy of compromise. Like, I compromised this for that person, and I compromised that for that person, and I didn't do this and I didn't do that when I wanted to and I should have. And it's like, yeah, you're right, you should have. But it's not necessarily on anybody else why you aren't your authentic self in any moment. If you make the choice to put pieces of yourself away because you fear they won't be accepted or because they haven't been accepted, another choice that you could have made is finding a different environment instead of hiding those pieces of you. Now, if you are decreasing the aspect and ratio and the fractalization of you because of some safety concerns or whatever, then that's completely different. But in that, hopefully you can still find ways to keep those pieces of yourself alive so that they don't get twisted and manipulated into dark, shadowy things. And this is the reclamation of those dark and shadowy things. But again, it's like with this outlaw and the nocturne, it's this energy of need. It's like reliving life, re-navigating life from a place of more authenticity, from more you. And it may take a while because maybe you were in the past for a hot minute, and so you forgot what some aspects of you are like. Like, I forgot some aspects of myself. I was like, oh my gosh. And then it's like, I knew that I used to be that, but I didn't think that I would be able to reclaim it. And I remember maybe a year and a half ago, I was talking to one of my besties. And I was talking about the journey, and I was talking to somebody else, I think, too. And I was like, there are these parts of me that I really want to reclaim. Like, I want to be that happy, like that happy-go-lucky, super extroverted, so interested in meeting new people, and just like bright. I want to be the bright version of myself because I'm tired of being this dimmed, shady, like, and not shady in like necessarily a bad way, but I guess shady in a way that, like, dimmed, not being fully me, not doing what I want to do, and then I get a little toxic and I get a little nasty. Now, that's a toxicity that I kept mostly contained, primarily because I limited a lot of the connection that I had with other people. But I know one individual in particular who a lot of that stuff just, it came out on. And we worked together. And what's most interesting about that situation, I guess, is that in all of my toxicity, it actually made him a better person. And I'm not saying that from an ego space, but like when I first met him, he was extremely self-centered. He took a lot, and a lot of his relationships seemed a lot more transactional. And he wasn't really able to empathize with other people because he was so deep into his own perspective and, like, well, everybody else that I know, like, they're all like that. And I'm like, well, I'm not everybody else, and you should know that about me by now. And what blew my mind is because, like, I knew, like, we were friends for like literally a year. And then the next year, he was like, Patrick, somebody asked me how I'm so, like, empathetic or something. And I laughed. I legitimately laughed because I was like, what, you? Wow. And then I was like, wow, so I'm over here suffering so everybody else can see the results of what happens in our relationship behind closed doors, where somebody can probably from the hallway hear us or me just being like, I'm done with this. All you do is take. I don't need selfish friends in my life. I don't need leeches. Was it true in the moment? Yeah. Was it a little bit too much? Probably, for sure. Was it, and I think honestly, like, that was something, I was somebody that he wasn't really used to handling. And he's a Libra, sun and moon. And so for him, I think a lot of it was like what I'm used to interacting with in these situations and how I've adapted myself to reduce whatever. And sometimes that adaptation doesn't fully serve. And I would like to think I've been able to experience more of his truer, more authentic self rather than like the version of him that it's like the 11th house version of him. I get to experience the 5th house version of him, but and some of the 4th house, like 5th, 4th house version of him. But also like our relationship dynamic changed. So that's probably why as well. And like, I feel like honestly on my part, there were times I could have been more understanding and times I could have been more patient. But again, like the things that upset me about him, like I was legitimately upset with like him for. And because we had those conversations and because, but like that's the reason why I continued a friendship with him. Because in him, I could see that this is someone who's actually like willing to better themselves and someone who's actually willing to not necessarily change, but to evolve in ways that he can be present for other people, where he could be a little less self-centered sometimes. Sometimes. Sorry. And also, like, our relationship wasn't all that. Our relationship was also like, it had a lot of good moments. He taught me a lot of patience and a lot of understanding. And he taught me that, like, I don't have to, like, be done with people. Like, before I decide to be done with somebody, again, I'm not a person of singular reasoning. So if I decide to be done with someone, it's for multiple reasons. But before him, it's like, okay, well, I already decided to be done with you, so I'm not going back. I don't care. I'm out. After him, I was like, okay, well, maybe I was a little harsh or a little rash in reaching this decision. I can't just expect for someone to, I guess, get me at the jump, even if I tell them that that's how I am. Some things require more patience and it requires more time, and some people are worth it. And again, like if I didn't see the capacity within him to like grow and evolve, then I wouldn't have went back to that friendship. But yeah, because I was just like, you know, if you're gonna be friends with me, like you don't have to change. But I don't do well with self-centered people. If all you're gonna do is take from me, and if you're not gonna give anything back, then I don't want this. And then a year later, people are like, oh my gosh, like you're so amazing, you're so awesome. How did you get so? How are you so empathetic? And I think because it was one of his closer friends, so that friend probably saw the shift in him as well. And because of that relationship, and because of facing those challenges, now it's put me in a space now where I can be more present, where I'm much more aligned to accepting my dream. Because as I was in the past, there's no way. And that's why I never dated anybody. Because I knew. I was like, I know I'm going to be toxic because of all the things that I'm not handling, because of all the things that I'm not addressing, and because of the way I handle dynamics. But now I'm in a space where I can be challenged. No, like I'm still not the type of person who like I don't want people in my life who are only gonna take from me. Um, but it's like I have a lot more patience, and there are some times when I feel like the ego within me will. It's like inside I can feel that like start to build up, but then it's like then something else steps in, and it's like wait and like listen. And adding more fuel to a fire isn't going to resolve anything. And at the end of the day, if a relationship is important to me, then I'll grow and I'll evolve and I'll become better. Especially if it's reciprocated, right? Because that's how we get where we're going. And now we're coming out with the moon card on top of this hangman. Pisces, Mars and Pisces into Pisces. The moon is the necromancer in this deck. We have the scarab that's representative of the sun on the moon card. We have the two jackals calling back to death, the reaper, excuse me, underworld. Also, they're tied together, so there is a little bit of a, not necessarily a lovers energy, but the lovers is the card, or a card, that's typically depicted as two energies or people tied to each other. I'll be right back, y'all. I gotta go to the bathroom. LOL. Oh, y'all, I almost hit the stop streaming button when I tried to unmute. I'm back. Um, so what just popped into my head? I'm doing this little exercise to teach me to be more mindful right now because I'm extremely clumsy and forgetful. Um, and so I have this box of, it's chicken flavored ramen noodles that I have set on top of something as I walk into the door. Now I put it up there so that I can remember, hey, that's right there. I should be like careful as I walk into my room. Sometimes I don't knock it over. Most of the time I do. I always forget that it's there. And it's like, by this point, it's been up there for a few days, and it's like, how do I keep forgetting? Because there's like a box on the floor in the kitchen, and I kept kicking it. I would like literally walk to the refrigerator, pass it, kick it, be in the refrigerator for 2 seconds, turn around and kick it again because I had already forgotten it was there. Long-term memory. Mid to long-term memory is what I have. Object permanence is not a thing. And what is object permanence? Here I go with that. I'm bringing it back, y'all, because y'all know how I roll by this point. With this moon card, again, like this is so back and forth, but maybe that's because that's the level of energy that I'm trying to like look at. Because it's not one thing, or like it's not black and white. It's a range, it's a flux, and sometimes we're better able to be the best or better version of ourselves in a situation, and sometimes we're not. Sometimes the past is more of a factor. Some days hurt more than other days. Some days are easier to see the brighter than other days, and so it is going to be like this back and forth. But with this, and speaking of object permanence and the necromancer here, it's like it's giving life to things that have long since passed. Again, going back up to this Knight of Pentacles with that Queen of Swords, looking back to everything that we already know rather than open to being guided by spirit to the beauty. It's like instead of trying to find the oasis in the desert, it's like going to a lush rainforest. Or just like moving out of the, just like getting out of the desert. where we can explore and not be bound to one specific area where we find peace. It's creating and cultivating it more widespread. And also, beyond that, is an energy of reconnecting again to the truth of ourselves. And it's this space where the ego and the spirit align. And it's at the soul. And it's like, they're both in some ways. Some of the ego is conditioning. But also, I think souls can grow. And so some of the things we take on, some of the things we master. Right? You have your natural talents, and you have your natural talents and gifts and abilities that could be like more south-nodey things that you're already good at from previous incarnations or whatever you believe, or things that you were created good at if you don't believe in previous incarnations. And then you have your north node, which is like the interest and where you grow, but where you face challenge. And so you may not be necessarily very good at it, but you have that interest there that will eventually become something that like your soul picks up in this lifetime. And I think sometimes we look at our current lifetimes as just these fleeting things, and we look at like all these other gifts and abilities, or we look towards stuff that tell us about gifts and abilities or like past lives, and it's like, okay, well, what about this life? What about expanding your toolbox and your toolkit now, rather than focusing so heavily on the things that like you've already mastered? Now, knowing those things would probably be good, because even like maybe you'll find a new application of them, or you'll use them in a new way. Now is the Judgment card. Judgment is the apocalypse, alpacalypse, not to be confused with llama hips. I don't know, I'm sorry. And it's fire. Oh, Judgment, that's the card that we have today, Pluto. Yeah, okay, word, sis. Okay, all right. In this Judgment card, we have the whole gosh darn tree of life, and that's Yesod. Shout out to Queen Cup. Yesod is like the one that I don't remember. So it's Keter, and then Chokmah and Bina, and then Gavura is the heart, Netzach is down here. I believe this one is Netzach. Yesod is this one. Malkuth is this one. Da'at is the void in the middle. Chesed, or Chesed, I think is the right one in the middle. So it's like Chakma, Chesed, Netzach. I don't know how to pronounce any of that. And then Yesod, Malkuth. Tiferet. Tiferet is in the middle. Tiferet is the heart. Keter is the crown. Gavura is the middle of the left pillar of severeness. And then this one is, I think I already said it, but I don't remember. Netzach, and it's like the two that I never get when I pull out the Angelarium, Oracle of Emanations. Chokmah and Bina, Chesed, and Gavura. It's Keter, Bina, Chokmah, Tiferet at the heart, Gavura, and Chesed, or Chesed, Netzach, and this one. I'm sorry. I'm getting distracted. Maybe look at the Tree of Life. I don't know. Here's another Judgment card with an energy of 2. In this deck, it's Resurrection. We see the lion down there, so Leo energy has a part to play for some reason. Maybe because of fire, and then the sun. And the sun brings us back to Leo. But one of them is looking left, one of them is looking right. One looks towards the future, the other looks towards the past, and in our hands we hold the now moment. I think our Judgment, honestly, I don't even know if we fully recognize the power of our Judgment, because it seems like a lot of times it's we seem to typically defer to the judgment of other people or what we believe because of what was instilled in us, rather than holding things up to the divine within us. And sometimes we do. It's that Jiminy Cricket. This is that Jiminy Cricket energy. That was the gift that doomed humanity. And then the Nine of Pentacles is here. So I love this energy because now I feel like we are more solidly heading into that, contextualizing the past. The past happened for a reason. I am victorious. I am grown. I am expanded. I am better because of how I showed up. And maybe I wasn't perfect in those moments, but I took it as an opportunity for growth. And I grew. And I'm better for it. With this Nine of Pentacles, going into the Three of Wands, there's the politic where they all come together, pyromancy for one image. It's one fire that they all gaze into. There it is down there. But they each have their own wand. And this, it's another past, present, future energy as well. And there's Aries energy. Here's Sun in Aries. So here's our second Sun. First we had the Sun in Scorpio, and now we have the Sun in Aries. So there's heavy Sun-Mars interaction here, which is masculine energy. One is expressive, the other is drive, which is a very like king type energy. But this is us, like we're seen as our actions rather than our intentions in this card also. And that can either align with or not align with the truth. And then we come into the Eight of Wands. Did y'all just see how that just slid off of that moon card? Girl, I ain't no other cards done that. Quit it. What you acting up for? And this is Mercury and Sagittarius. And the Eight of Wands is pointing off into this blank unknown space. There's nothing out there. Nothing on the cards that's out there. So the Three of Wands into the Eight of Wands, that is, and I was going to talk about community, but I didn't. Because with the Three of Cups, it was an energy of a community being formed where there are differences, but there's still peace. And it's stronger because of the different perspectives that people bring. In this Three of Wands community, there's only one fire. So it's a gathering of like minds. And it's that gathering that really propels and shoots things off with this sharpshooter energy. So there is a little bit of a caveat warning here, like be sure that you are congregating with energies that you would like to see proliferated in your own life. And so that it's like you know, sometimes like misery loves company, and we can get together and, you know, you ain't got to be perfect all the time. That's not what I'm saying. But it's to realize the power in congregation. So it's like, you know, sometimes you get together with your friends or whoever and you like talk crap about people, or you engage in lower energies, and then you see those energies like proliferate more in your life. That's why I say, you know, like be careful of the energies that you sort of surround yourself with, because that will be what proliferates. And it'll do it more easily. I think what's also here that's kind of sort of understated is if you don't have the capacity or the capability, if you don't have the capability to be surrounded more by what it is that you wish to see and what it is that you wish to proliferate. Like, let's say that you're from a small town and everyone has small town mentality, but you have big dreams, and so you don't find much support in your environment. It's like it could be difficult. It could feel like it's difficult for that to take off. But there's an energy of like wherever two or three touch and agree, like I am there. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like other people. Like this could be you and the divine and other aspects of spirit are you and the divine and people who align to what it is that you want that you haven't even met yet. But as long as you hold the vision, even separately, it'll still come to fruition because spirit doesn't know distance. Next is the Four of Swords. I'm actually going to read this whole line because I'm feeling like it. Girl, we really going to be in here on the whole deck looking for that King of Cups. I mean, I guess again I shouldn't be surprised because I'm like, well, let's look between the King of Wands and the King of Cups. Hey, Soul Troop. Hey, it's only been a minute. How you doing today? I hope you're well. If you're not, I hope you do better soon. I was like, let's see what's in this Valley of Judgment. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised that a lot of stuff came out. I said I was doing the whole line. Oh, look, there's the Three of Cups on top of the Three of Wands. Okay. And then Death. Okay, all right. And I like that, like, Death and the Sharpshooter, they're both looking in the same direction. Both looking towards the future. Both of them are looking at something that I can't see here. Meaning that it may be something beyond your realm of immediate understanding. Again, not with the Knight of Pentacles looking back at the Queen of Wands. Oh! In this deck, these are the same character. In the Four of Swords, it's Death at rest with Temperance, the angel, in the window. Temperance, the angel, who was bound up here at the captor. And so here it's active. The scythe has transformed into a sword while this Death card is at rest. And here's the Page of Swords. So Page of Swords and the Three of Cups between these two. There's an energy of like a soul. It is like soul tribe energy. It's people who come in who, it's like them being authentically who they are encourages you to be authentically who you are. And them standing in their power, using their gifts, somehow leads you to yours, even though they're not the same. Maybe they're similar in some ways. Because at the Three of Wands, again, they're all gazing into the same fire. And the Three of Cups, they each have their own cup that they're looking into. But there's still communion between them. And it's like with Three Wands, you can get things even quicker. There's an energy of acceleration here, but with the Three of Cups, it's an energy of complete and total transformation with the Reaper. And it's guided, like the ray of light. It's like the Reaper is following the light. This is Scorpio. The only other Scorpio card on the table is up here, Sun and Scorpio with the Memory Keeper. So the Four of Cups and the Five of Cups haven't made an appearance yet. Thank you, Soul Troop. I'm feeling a little goofy today in points and parts and at points, but it's also speaking to, there's an energy here of the things that we only discover while we're at rest. And to really, like, to be at rest like this, we have to get through this Three of Swords energy. Thank you. No problem. Glad to be of service. It's a little bit of Lady in the Lake energy, honestly. Okay. So this meeting here, these people here have been through this. This is It's like working through the past, doing that like inner child healing, addressing traumas and triggers. And so this lady of the lake energy then comes in and it presents this person with their sword. Who this? I see wings, but I don't see the head. Oh, it's an owl. Okay, so there's some Athenian energy. Oh, it's Hedwig and the Hogwarts letter. Okay, or not. Anyway, and so it's like a sleeper cell type of energy because again, this energy is the Reaper, but it's like a convention of Reapers, and like that's the difference between these two energies. It's in here because it's like these. It's like this is getting together to push a certain agenda forward. So that's being pushed forward. Here, after this healing and the presentation of this sword, now we're coming together. And since each has their own cup, it's like each person is operating in their own strength. And they have complementary strengths that lead to this change. And another thing that's not here, it's kind of sort of more here in the Three of Swords energy that backs it. Oh, look, Jupiter in Libra. Did I already talk about that? Here's Jupiter in Libra. Jupiter in Libra. We have Jupiter in Gemini up here somewhere. Where is it? Right there. Jupiter in Leo, right there. Jupiter in Capricorn. Jupiter is just popping out all over the place. And I love it, though, because Jupiter is opportunity and expansion and stuff. But here, there's this unspoken energy of like accepting our own limitations, accepting our own weaknesses. Because to accept our strengths and to be in a position to allow someone else's strength to compensate for, or yeah, to compensate for an area that we may be lacking, it requires a little bit of a shedding of the ego to not get defensive or try to hide whatever. So now I feel like we're shifting more into a communal Aquarian energy, and insert the Five of Pentacles here. This is so weird. Oh my gosh. Come on. It was just so good. That's what I'm saying about this. Like, it feels like there's just so many different. Like, it's this back and forth energy. But we're human. So it's going to be back and forth. Like, it's not going to be, like, not every day is going to be great. Not every day is it going to be easy for us to stand in our power. Some days, like anniversaries of certain events, it may be difficult for us, even if we've healed them. And it's not to discredit any of that difficulty. Like, I believe that those things, like, if it comes to you to be felt, it's meant to be felt. Maybe not necessarily to be held on to the point where it starts to, damage and hurt, but it's meant to be felt. And I think this Five of Pentacles, especially coming off of this community, it feels like there's a certain image that we're trying to portray here. And so there may be things that we go through that we want to keep separate. But I feel like it's just speaking on the importance of finding people that you can experience all of that with. Or like to be in a place where you don't have to hide it or feel like you need to. Here's a weird line. Because then we go into the Sacred Fire, the Shining Flame, and the Corruptor. Not dealing with this here. Okay. It feels like It was only the Three of Cups, not only the Three of Cups, but maybe there isn't a large community of people that you can take stuff to. Maybe you're not yet at the point where you feel like you can open up to these people, because the Four of Swords is here, and the Four of Swords being between the 3 and the 5, the 3 and the 5. I don't know why I did 1 and 3. Being between the 3 and the 5, it's like, again, it goes back to like I don't want them to see this side of me. Like, I don't want to be perceived as weak. I don't want to bring the mood down. I don't want to be a mood killer. If everyone else is in a good mood, I don't want to bring it down. Type of energy. And I think that's what makes this separation feel even the more. It's like it amplifies that energy. And it isn't necessarily because, if you experience something this good, then you're going to experience a low that is equally as high as the good, or equally as low as the good was high. It feels like what's really exacerbating this is because you found this community where it feels like you can be so much, or you found a person, or again, it could be a few people. It could be one person, or maybe, anyway, I'm going to continue with how it's coming to me. If it ain't yours, don't take it. When you find somewhere where you can be so much of who you are, and then you encounter something that you don't necessarily like, or that you think won't find the same acceptance that the rest of who you are found, then it's like it exacerbates that. It makes it harder, because it's like, man, like I have a space where I really want to share this, but I can't. And so it's like it causes separation on your part where there isn't necessarily any, or where there doesn't have to be any. And so what it does is, within you, without like an outlet to vent that or to experience that, it causes you to seek something, to make a decision in the moment that maybe you wouldn't make under different circumstances, and to lapse into something with the Seven of Cups corruptor here. And that's like where this is going. But it's like, with that Three of Cups, it feels like, and again, that's the Five of Pentacles energy for me, is us not finding what we need because we're not asking for it. And we're not asking for whatever reason we have. We don't want to be perceived a certain way. We don't want to be a burden. We don't want to be a bother, whatever. Because it's typically depicted like beggars or people who are down on their luck outside of a church. And if they knock on the church door, they'll be welcomed in. And so it's very much a like, you have not because you ask not type of energy. And so we seek out other ways to get it, even though it already, like, it exists where we are. We just don't speak it. We don't ask for it. And it's Mercury in Taurus. No, this is, yeah, it's Mercury in Taurus. So it's like, if you would have just communicated it instead of not, then I feel like it would have been fine. And I feel like another thing that it does is, but what it teaches us is, it teaches us what things aren't actually in alignment with who we are. It teaches us more about the alignment, because if you seek something out from this space, from the Five of Pentacles space of being out in the cold or falling on hard times, with this Seven of Cups, and it doesn't fulfill you, it takes away from you, then you know on this soul level that that's not something that's for you. And there are some things that we can do in moderation. There are some things that are fine. But there are some things that, like, we should probably just leave alone. Because in some way it takes us away from us. And now we come into the Gardener, which is the 7 of Pentacles. So now we're putting Saturn in Taurus on top of that Mercury in Taurus. So come through Taurian energy. We got some Libra in here. We got some fire in here. We got some Sun and Scorpio and Saturn, Mercury, Taurus in this column. I think this is putting us in, because we go from the 7 of Cups to the 7 of Pentacles. So now that we're feeling the separation, I think we're also learning how to give to ourselves. So maybe this was the space of a community, but with the Reaper, it fell apart. And so that's why we come into this 5 of Pentacles where it's like we're out in the cold, and where we may have had a support system in the past, we don't at present. But in this moment, maybe you sought out, I'll say, a vice that you have, and you decided that you don't like who you are when you're interacting with that, and it doesn't benefit you. So at the 7 of Pentacles, it's like you're starting to learn what does benefit you, so you can take care of yourself better. And with the Lovers, so we kind of go from 7 Pentacles to 10 Pentacles over here in the Lovers, because the Pentacles in this deck are orbs, and here we have the Tree of Life again. We saw the Tree of Life up here in Apocalypse, where it was complete, but in this Judgment card, it's incomplete. Malkuth is over here in the Tree of the Knowledge of Good and Evil, and everything else is in this Tree of Life. And Malkuth is everything above it, and it's like everything playing out in one environment. It's like that, like the universe in a droplet of water type of energy. It is this like inside outside reflection. It's reflective. It's the below, and the as above, so below, basically. So everything in the above, it plays out in the below. But like we're in the below. It gets weird at Malkuth. But again, it's like the fruit from the Tree of the Knowledge of Good and Evil is kind of sort of that Jiminy Cricket. It's your conscience, and it's something that we've always had. Even before we had it, right? Because Adam knew that he shouldn't eat of the fruit before he got the knowledge of good and evil. But that was, I guess, the first choice that he made to do something that he knew he shouldn't do. And so it brought on the first consequence, the first negative consequence. And the first of anything is almost always the worst, right? The first time you experience a disappointment, the first time, and it's not that other times aren't as disappointing, but it's just like, since that's your first interaction with that, you don't have a solid basis of how to cope or how to deal with it, because you've never had to experience it before. And so again, it's like there's an energy here now of finding healthier coping mechanisms where you can handle and address and honor the feelings and emotions without doing something that compromises yourself, your integrity, or what it is that you're working towards. Also, here we see the Phoenix and the Dragon a second time, having matured from the first one in the Memory Keeper, wherever it is. This should be up here somewhere, right there in the Memory Keeper. But now it's like they're bound. And now here's the Star card, which is the healing. I love that. So the healer coming after the lovers. And that goes into the Journeyman. So between the 7 and the 8 of Pentacles, between the cultivation and the mastering, or the journey of mastery, is the lovers and the healer. So this is making those self-honoring choices and decisions. This is finding healthier ways to cope and deal with things that don't take you away from what it is that you want to create and cultivate. And again, it's putting you in the space of mastery. The runes have now appeared on her face. We see this orb in this tree over here. We see this orb in this staff over here. That's like the power that we have to claim. And this healing that's happening in between. And with that which goes into the land and that which goes into the sea or back into the sea, it's this energy of like, this is something that's for me. This is something that will grow me. This is something that I want to carry forward. And that goes onto the land to, you know, work its way into whatever you're trying to grow. And then what you don't need goes back into the sea. Like, this is collective guilt. This is collective shame. This is conditioning. This is social, societal norms and pressures and stuff like that. That's not of me. That can go back to the collective. Or it's not even like that's not of me. It's like that's something that doesn't benefit. That's something that doesn't grow me. And that's all about what the Judgment card said in the book today. It's about like maybe something was beneficial in the past, but maybe like where you are now, it no longer benefits or grows you. It does more damage than harm. It hinders and hampers. Hampers? Is that a word? I think it is. It hinders and hampers you more than it helps and puts you into that energy of acceleration. And so again, here's an energy again coming all the way back up here of learning to re-navigate life. So all of this is like, it's this, that in between, well, I guess we're going from fire to water. So it's extremely fluid, and fire isn't even, like, you can't even put fire in a cup necessarily. And so I guess I shouldn't be surprised in this super heavily mutable space that things are kind of sort of all over the place. I am kind of sort of a little shocked and surprised that I'm still going. Still looking for that King of Cups. The burdened one. Okay. The burdened one in this deck, this is Saturn in Sagittarius, sitting on top of Saturn in Taurus. So more Saturnian energy. Okay. Lots of, I think all of the Saturn is in this column. Actually, I think that's the case. No, because here's Saturn in Libra. So a little bit of it bled over into the second column. But it's all in the first and the second column, with the World card heading the top of it, which is pure Saturnian energy. So we're coming into a space of mastery. I think this Ten of Wands, the burdened one, it's an energy of, it's like deciding what's worth carrying forward and what's better left behind. Also, I think there's an energy here of learning that there are people that you can depend and rely on, and learning to, it's not you pushing your burden off onto someone else, but it's maybe it's like getting a little bit of support where you need a little bit of support. Whereas at the Five of Pentacles, the Vagabond, Five of Orbs, you were a lot less likely to reach out when you wanted to, or when you needed to. And so this also puts another energy on here. It's still making those self-honoring choices and decisions, but here it's like not being so concerned with the way that you'll appear to someone else. Maybe there were people in your environment in the past, or employers in the past, who would like weaponize your vulnerability against you. Like maybe you confided in someone about something and then they turned it around and they use it against you. And so maybe there is a little bit of that you have to unlearn, and that you have to, honestly, you just have to be brave enough to trust that the people in your environment after you begin to heal won't do that to you. And if someone does that to you, that reflects poorly on them. Don't allow that to close your heart. And it's easier said than done. It's more difficult to actually do, I understand, but sometimes the only way to get over something is to just be brave, step out, and let go. I feel like here the divine, it's like there are some things, some ways that you used to be that you've healed from that you need to let go of. That the divine is like, it's going to give you the opportunity to let go. And with this Sagittarius, I said Sagittarius, but I meant Saturn. With the Sagittarius energy, it's more global. So you're meeting people outside of the environment that you grew up in. And with the Saturnian energy, it serves your new foundation, or you need to operate from a space of your new foundation. And if the foundation that you have here is different with that Sagittarian energy than previous foundations, then this would be a safe space to let go. If it's not different, then maybe find something that is. And then we come into the erudite. And I feel like the erudite Virgo energy is contextualizing everything above it. The erudite is holding one staff. Here's 10 wands. Or 10 scepters. There's scepters in this deck. He's holding a scepter. The erudite is holding one scepter. Here's 10 scepters. The 10 and 1 are numerologically equivalent. But the 10 still has some emphasis on the cycle that you're coming out of. The ace is purely new. Luke's X, Tenebris, that's light from shadow. That's you learning to shine brighter because of the darkness that you were in. And it's because it's like shining brighter despite the darkness that you were in, honestly. This is like the power that you hold at the Six of Wands. Something is trying to come to my mind, but I don't know what the beginning is. I know it's like non-eternal. So it's like not forever. It's not eternal. Maybe it's pain isn't forever. Hurt and misery aren't forever. Maybe it's fill in the blank. Fill in the blank, non-eternal. Blank isn't forever. And sometimes you're like, oh, the good times aren't forever. Happiness, if there's happiness, there'll be sadness, or blah, blah, blah. It's whatever perspective, whatever spin you want to put on it. Again, going back to one of these energies up here, it was either the Three of Wands or the Three of Cups. Of like what you project out, like check what you project. Maybe that was the joyous one in the moon. Wherever I said check what you project, that's coming back here with this erudite. Also, the erudite. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Because the Judgment card today, it had a hermit energy, and here's the erudite, the hermit right here. And so, especially coming off of this Sun in Virgo, Eight of Wands, Journeyman, this is us really being in a space of mastering that in between the self and the soul energy. Oh, we got two cards coming into more Taurian energy, pure Taurus, and the Knight of Swords. So the Hierophant and the Knight of Swords. I love this. I love this after the Hermit, because in this deck, the Hierophant does not carry a great energy. It's like the Hierophant, for a lot of us, instead of it like being used to get us closer to the divine, we kind of sort of treat it as a substitute for divine energy. And it's all about us needing to go beyond the Hierophant to learn the divine for ourselves. And in learning it for ourselves, connecting more to it ourselves and in our own way. And to exist outside of labels that a Hierophant will put onto something to limit, basically to increase your dependency on Hierophant energy a lot of times, it seems. But it's like it limits free exploration. Now, I also love that the Hermit is coming after this Hierophant, because it seems like sometimes I've come across a few people who have narratives that run something like, I used to be super religious, and then I got into tarot, and then I got into the occult, and then I got into everything else, and I lost whatever, and now I'm going back to religion and tarot and the occult and stuff. It's whatever it is. But in my mind, like everything I do, I take my connection with me. Like if this didn't feel right, I wouldn't be doing it. And so it's like there are a lot of things that a lot of people who do tarot do that I don't do. For me, it's just not for me. It's not to put necessarily judgment on anybody. I just know that within myself, it's not a match. It's non-resonant. And so I don't have to, I don't know. In my mind, I guess it's just interesting that how do I say it without being judgmental? It's not judgmental, it's just an observation. I guess it's just interesting that some people would get into certain things, but I guess in my mind, it's like, how do you blame the thing for like the choice that you made? Right? It was like back when they used to say that, was it like marijuana is the gateway drug? It's like usually you start with something like marijuana, but eventually you end up on like crack cocaine. And it's like there is an element of choice and decision that's still present in that. It's not that one is like one has to lead to the other. Are there people who start with something lighter and then they go to heavier things? Yeah, of course. Is it because maybe life gets more difficult or they face challenge and their body builds some type of tolerance to what it is that they usually do, so they want something harder so that they don't have to deal with whatever it is that they're running from? Maybe. But then does the problem lie on the drug? Does the problem lie in the substance? Does the problem lie in the tool? Or is more of the fault, I don't want to say fault, or is more of the responsibility on the person who, like, and the reason why they use it in the first place? Like, if you're using something to escape, then that's probably like the not great. Like, it does, like, you can be addicted to literally anything. And you could be like, yeah, but my Netflix binging addiction isn't as bad as, like, I don't know, alcohol, where it could damage my liver and affect my like ability to live life or the quality of life that I have. Like that's something that we can be like, well, at least it's not that. Anyway, reeling it back in, I love that this is coming after the Hermit, because the Hermit, it maintains integrity of self and of that connection. And going into the Holy See, it's like it's like you would be able to find the resonance in that without getting lost. It's like you don't have to pick up the whole thing. Like it's not a package deal type of energy. And then I love that the Knight of Swords is looking away from the Hierophant. And the mask that the Hierophant, or the mask that the Knight of Swords is wearing as it went through that, because it's like it protects it from falling under the spell of the Hierophant and sacrificing all that it already believed to buy into all of what something else is teaching. And that's why, we take what resonates and we leave what doesn't. Now, this coming off of the Ten of Wands, I feel like there's something in between. No, because so the Ten of Wands gets consolidated down into this Hermit erudite energy after we learn to let go. And it's like some of these burdens the divine bestows upon us, some of those burdens the divine takes from us. But it leads us to this space where we learn ourselves and we hone that connection with the divine. So then we can interact with the Holy See energy. We can take what we need to continue growing and then keep it moving with this Knight of Swords rather than being stuck under the umbrella, being stuck in the congregation of that Hierophant. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about you it's about you getting to know the divine for yourself in whatever weight, shape, tool, or form that carries. And there's always something to be learned whenever we engage with something, but I don't know. I feel like we shouldn't necessarily feel like we lost ourselves in something. And if you did, then maybe it's time to think about what you're looking for. Like, why did you turn to that in the first place? And since the Hermit is out, now we're asking the tough questions. The Hermit energy is out. So, hey, that's something that we go find. Now we're coming into the Demiurge, the Four of Wands, which is a gorgeous energy. The Demiurge, I think the name carries a negative connotation. In the book, I looked it up, and it was like, to me, it looked like one who is capable of forming and designing their own reality. And a lot of times it's like, maybe I shouldn't talk about things that I don't know. But it seems like a lot of times we look at energies that have the power to shape our reality as like bad or wicked or evil. But in some sense, it's like nothing has any control over you that you don't give to it. And going back to the Hierophant, it seems that in some ways, it's like we trade one master for another. Instead of like a pastor or a rabbi or the Pope or whoever being the person that you look to for guidance and for answers, now you look to planets and the stars in the sky. Like, oh, this is transiting today, better not do this. Oh, this is transiting today, better do that. And it's like all of the limitations that some spiritual people will say that people under religion experience, it's like, well, then they subjugate themselves to the stars in the sky. Does it make you any freer because you choose to be subjugated by one thing rather than another? Especially when we start saying like, oh, this transit happened 1,500 years ago, so prepare for this to come back. And it's like, at what point do we have the agency in our own lives? At what point do we actually utilize the power of our will and the power of our choice? Well, here's the answer here. It's at the Four of Wands and the energy of the Demiurge. But we don't do that. I love that it's in the shape of this wheel, because it's like we don't do that without like acknowledging that cause and effect is a thing. And you can operate under a certain set of causes with a set of intended effects, but what actually results from that may not be what you expected. And it's still taking responsibility, because even if it wasn't what you intended, even if it wasn't what you expected, if you put that into motion, you're responsible for how it plays out. And if we like throw our hands up and sacrifice responsibility as soon as it's something that we don't want, well, how are you operating in any kind of power or sovereignty or anything at that point? Next is the Five of Cups and the Seeker. This is Mars and Scorpio. Mars is home in Scorpio. This is why Scorpio be so strong. If a Scorpio is stuck, if a Scorpio wants to be stuck, you're not going to get a Scorpio unstuck. If they want to be down and out, they're going to be down and out regardless of what you say. Just like Taurus has fixed Earth, if they're set in their ways, they're set in their ways. Aquarius is fixed there. Once they've made up their mind, you may not be able to change it. And who else we got? Fixed Fire, Leo. And now it's coming out. Well, it's with this air energy and the Seeker. So we have the keeper over here and the seeker is here. The seeker means that there's partial understanding. Again, we see the hands of the divine here, just like we saw right here in the burdened one. So these burdens are, some of these are what we've been asking for and what we've been seeking. It requires a change of perspective. If you want this Four of Wands energy, it requires a change of perspective of your part, and it requires you seeing in the bigger picture, seeing the bigger picture beyond your own understanding. So now it's like it takes us all the way back up here, where the divine presented it originally with that Ace of Cups, but we were more focused on what it is that we've already experienced, what we already know, what we already believe. Knight of Pentacles was looking back at that Queen of Swords. And here in the Five of Cups, it's like we're making our peace. He's holding this dahlia. Dahlias are symbolic of fate. And it's like an energy of saying goodbye to an old cycle, to an old chapter, to an old version of us. And now we're coming into the Force. And this is what we're seeking. Here's the North Node, referenced all the way up here in the Nocturne. Here's the North Node. Excuse me. It's like it's going to require a little bit of sacrificing the ego. Again, here comes this energy of learning to re-navigate life, not to react so quickly to certain things. And it's like you thought you were seeking a solution, or it's like you thought you were seeking a thing, but what you were actually seeking was a path. And it's divine is like, I could give you $1 million, or I could teach you how to make $1 million. And if I teach you how to make $1 million, you can have as many millions as you want. But if I just give you $1 million, then it does nothing to, it's like it does nothing to improve your quality of life. But in your mind, you're like, well, $1 million can buy me a lot of things that will improve my quality of life. What are you talking about? But when it comes to the divine, it's rarely physical. It's not always physical. I'll say that instead. And so this is a quality of life that exists in all ways, not just physical. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, the whole 10 yards. But if you just get $1 million, that's like what? A physical change, but everything that motivates everything is still there. So you'll still face challenges and setbacks. Honestly, by this point, I'm like, where is that King of Cups? Where is the Archangel of Healing? We have so much to heal. So much to integrate, so much to learn. But like, how long have we lived life? How long has history been on these repetitious cycles because we don't handle, we don't face, we don't truly address what it is that we need to? Like the Crusades happened in the what years? And we're still in this space of religious like persecution, prosecution, and oppression. And it's like his will be done on heaven or on earth as it is in heaven, but it ain't for us to dictate and determine how other people live their lives. Especially when it comes to like certain things where people ain't infringing upon the rights of others. This Nine of Swords, Mars and Gemini. I feel like there's an energy here. It feels like there's an energy here of us beginning to see the role that we've played in life, particularly the not great things. Maybe in the past we always blamed other people for why we did what we did, and so we were never really fully in a space to take full accountability. But now with this Nine of Swords, all this accountability that I've been talking about, this is us taking accountability. And maybe we realize that we've done some things that we now regret. But again, it's future focused. So it's not to be stuck in. And it's in the same column as that memory keeper. Now we're seeing where it's coming down more to trauma rather than the rose-tinted glasses nostalgia that it typically was. It took a long time for this energy to come out, but I mentioned it up there. Right. It's not like, from this space, it's not like we're supposed to look on all the bad that we did and think that we're an absolute garbage, terrible person and we don't deserve happiness. And now we go back to something on our hands and knees and we're like, please, please, please take me back. I've realized whatever. And it's not to say that like there aren't people who deserve apologies, and it's not to say that we don't acknowledge to other people that we now understand and know the role that we played. But again, it's so that we move forward into a brighter future. Now we're aware of those things. Hopefully we don't repeat them. I feel like there's such heavy plutonian energy in this, but it is coming off of Judgment, so that makes sense. Life, death, and rebirth. Excuse me. But I feel like when we didn't see it, we were incapable of making certain choices and decisions. It's like when you don't see it, it limits the power of your voice. And did I say something with this Four of Wands about taking accountability? No, I said we need to, it was cause and effect. That's what I was talking about. And that how like sometimes when things don't go the way we planned, then we try to like throw our hands up and claim that we're not responsible just because it didn't go the way we planned, but you're still responsible for your actions. That's why it's a wheel. You kind of sort of release intention. It's going to play out in whatever way it plays out. It's not necessarily going to be linear every time. Oh, if I do A, I'll get B. It's like, girl, it's telephone. You said B. Oh, I thought you said D. You said B, girl. I thought you said Z. He was like, Z? How I run? Like, first step, run through the whole alphabet? Excuse me? No, why would I say that? It's like, I don't know. I was confused when you said it, but it's what I heard, so I did it anyway. And it's like, well, I wish you would have double checked and made sure. And it's like, well, maybe you should have double checked and made sure of your own intentions and the things that you're carrying around that you're not necessarily knowledgeable about. Four of Wands coming out under that 10 of Wands. Now it's the Queen of Pentacles, the Ebony Shield. What's interesting is that here is our Queen of Swords, the Scarlet Shield. Here is our Ebony Shield. The Scarlet Shield and the Ebony Shield, that was everything that we're trying to manifest from the mental to the physical space. And the cleaners in between, or like how smoothly the things can transit from mental to physical. Now, when I did that, it's like the Death card came out 2 cards after. It was the Corrector and then Death. And it's like, that is quite a mountain for anything to make before it comes into your physical. Death and the Corruptor, it's like death is an energy of purification, but with the Corruptor, everything is bad, so nothing makes it through. Nothing is pure enough to make it through the sensor that is death. And so that's why Earth energy can feel like it's so slow sometimes. But it's Earth is depending upon the soil and the moisture in the air and the amount of light it gets. It's the water, the air, and the fire before it becomes Earth. So if Earth is slow, it's because something is up with the water, the air, and or the fire. With the Queen of Pentacles, though, after we come into this energy of complete and total accountability, it drastically improves our ability to nurture things and interact with the earth element. Also, going back up here to that Four of Wands, it's an understanding and an appreciation of cycles. Now it's the Queen of Wands. So now we're starting to, after we get this understanding here, it's starting to close the gap all the way back up here. And that's something that I didn't necessarily account for initially when I had planned to do this or as I was seeing it. Because if we are going from the soul to the pieces of the soul that we embody in that moment, this queen is talking about the fundamental understanding of this that we need to have in order to more accurately decide, okay, this is who I need to be in this moment. It's almost like, before you decide what color to paint something, maybe you should know all of your different options. Or before you decide the color of the walls in a room, maybe you should look at the furniture that you're going to put in that room. Because it's these decisions that are capable of being made individually and separately and that don't necessarily have immediate ties to each other. But with the overall aesthetic, bringing in Libran energy, making it balanced and just and appropriate for the situation. Those are things that we should be considering. So I love that this came out here because this means that, like, before we decide with the King of Cups, we know with this Queen of Wands. That conversation is happening here. And now if the Archangel of Healing, oh, girl, oh, wait, the devil? Where did that come from? Capricorn energy. What are you doing? Now, if I recontextualize this, talking about we're experiencing the sea and the sea goat, I'm looking for the King of Cups, Archangel of Healing, and then the devil came out. Also, speaking of recontextualization, this is an energy that we've been building to this whole time, where we're able to see the past as necessary to get us to the point where we are now. Or it's like after you've made it through a difficult situation, you can appreciate all of the challenges along the way because of how strong it made you. Here's the South Node, where literally we just had the North Node. So it took how many cards? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32-ish cards in order for the North Node to come out and pop out over the South Node that we saw all the way up there in the Nocturne Two of Pentacles. And I guess the Seeker is all the way down here, so assumed Initiate at the beginning. It's taken all of this really to get us to begin to understand, but that makes sense. Because before we can become this keeper in communion with the High Priestess so that we know and understand the nature of spaces and the workings of energy in those spaces to weave together something that becomes something physical, this is like all of the prerequisite information that we need. And we can reflect back on the wholeness of our journey, on the wholeness of our lives, honestly, from where we are now. And we should be able to begin to see how some of the difficult moments set us up to be the champion that we are today. And that is this Ace of Swords that we really need to come into an understanding with. And I'm reaching the end of the table. I ain't got much more room left. But with the Ace of Swords, and again, by this point, look how far down the crown is on the hilt of the sword. In an Ace of Swords, for me personally, I always look at the distance between the hilt of the sword and the crown, because the hilt is where we grab the sword. And so if the crown is that close, that means that we have a pretty significant understanding of how things work and operate by this point. If it was at the tip, with it being that far from the hand or from where the hand typically goes, then that understanding, it's like it's ungrounded. We don't really know how to use it. It's just like a download that came in and like we don't know or whatever. I didn't have to necessarily say that, but we don't know what to do with it. By this point, we know what to do. Again, though, I'm not surprised because that's coming after the Queen of Wands. And this is our understanding. That's why I decided to go with the Kings when it comes to that valley, even though it could have been like the King of Wands and the Queen of Cups. but it's a little more fixed than that, even in essences. But the mutability would make it seem like it could be cardinal. Well, as soon as I say I'm assuming that this was the Fool up to the Seeker, now here we have the Fool. After this Ace of Swords. And again, the Ace of Swords and this Fool, the Initiate, coming after the Demon under Force, that North Node, South Node, taking me back up here to the Two of Pentacles, learning how to re-navigate the world, or relearning how to navigate the world, seeing things now through a completely new set of eyes. Because with this Nine of Swords, not only are we taking accountability for our own actions, which gets us to contextualize things in a different way, coming into this, being able to understand how some of the challenges in the past prepared us to be who we are now, and understanding that if we are to continue growing, we'll probably face more challenge. Taking the sting out of the challenge, now handling it with a lesson-based approach. What do I have to learn? It doesn't necessarily make it much easier, but that context, it soothes. It has a soothing energy to it, even if it's a little difficult. But with this Fool, this is like a whole new way that we haven't engaged with the world before. And now comes the Emperor. Now the world, life, spirit is ready to work with us. I love that. Here's the Ankh that the Hangman, literally right under the Nocturne, was hanging by. Gifted to us, gifted to these emperors. And this is a cardinal energy, which again mirrors this brand new beginnings. For some people, they have an Aries association with the Fool. But there's also the Wand, the Scepter, and the Pentacle here. And in this Pentacle, it's I forget what it's called, but it shows the progression of the elements and how they interact with each other. Again, referencing back to this Demiurge, Four of Wands energy, that we need to keep this knowledge of like cycles and challenges that lead to overcoming challenges that lead to growth and expansion. Like, it's all a part of the equation. And you can't fully engage this energy, High Priestess, the Seeker, into creating with that bread of life without that level of accountability and awareness. Like, if you're like, okay, I don't like this, or I'm going to disregard these things that are happening and I'm going to focus on what I want. For this level of manifestation, that's not good enough. Because maybe it's telling you something. Maybe it's illuminating something that you're overlooking. And if your answer to something being brought to your awareness that you're overlooking is to now intentionally ignore it, what good does that do? Anything. Seven of Swords. I feel like that speaks to what I was just saying. It doesn't do any good. It separates you even more from your power, and it gives those things permission to continue happening in your reality as long as you're not aware of it, which does nothing to solve any problems. I think a lot of times it seems that it's like when we encounter a problem, we treat it as if it's not a problem and expect for that to solve the problem or resolve the problem. And it's like, if the pipes in your house had burst and you wanted to run water, you wouldn't just turn the handle and expect for water to come out of the faucet, even though you didn't call out a plumber to come in and fix the pipes. You would have to have somebody come and fix the pipes in order for water to begin to flow. So why then do we treat our lives as different? I'm not going to handle this. I'm not going to face this. I'm not going to address this. If I treat it as if it's solved, it will be. And it's like, no. In no context does that work. And or maybe there are contexts in which that work that I'm not aware of. But I feel like we tried the whole ignoring our problems and hoping that they go away thing, and it hasn't been working for a very long time. Or we tried the whole do less than the bare minimum and treat that as a solution type of thing, and again, it hasn't been working for a long time. And if you're manifesting Age of Aquarius anything, that's everybody doing their part, including you. Not just, oh, we all ignore what's happening to the point where out of sight, out of mind, right? It's like, no. Let me calm it down. Okay. How long are we taking? How far are we taking this? The conservator, protectors of some kind of order. And I love it for this because it puts you, when it elevates you into this position, it creates this, it's like an extra line of defense. These, again, with this emperor, it's the actual problem solvers. It's the people who are actually going to go in and do something rather than these Seven of Swordsy type people who will like ignore it. And going back to the metaphor that came out with the Six of Pentacles, it's like we're in a space of being promoted. And so what's most important, or what's most like what we're being judged and evaluated on the most right now, is our ability to rise to the occasion and to handle situations and challenges. Because if you can't handle challenge where you are, how are you supposed to be promoted to anything higher? Where it's like things are more challenging, you're responsible for more, and there's more to lose. It's like if you can barely manage and keep track of what you have now, then like, I don't know. And it's in some ways takes me all the way back up to the Six of Cups into the Tower energy of like, if it was gonna work then, it would have worked then. So it's just question marks. Next is the Magician. So it's going to be these conservators. And this, to me, it's going back, it's speaking of that energy, like one person in the full authenticity and power of their voice is more powerful than one in a group that is the Hierophant. And that takes me back. It's like first we had the Three of Wands into the Eight of Wands, where it's like, yeah, that can accelerate some things if you have more people backing a certain energy. But with the Three of Cups into the Reaper, that's where the space of actual transformation happens. And that actual transformation happens because each person is coming with their own individual vision, standing in their own power. Three gathered in their power gives us a Reaper energy that's actually like primordial, major arcana level transformation. Three gathered together under the same banner gets you an Eight of Wands, which isn't bad, but Eight of Wands compared to the Reaper, it's like you in your fullness can do more than you can do with others. But you don't get to that fullness again without the understanding of cause and effect and justice energy and accountability and facing instead of ignoring and addressing instead of resuppressing. It's like the darkness is coming to the light so that we can be made aware, and we would rather resuppress. And you know what's the most ironic is that some of these people I've come across, and they'll talk about spiritual warfare and this war against the light and the dark, and then when things come to the surface to be resolved, it seems like they take an energy of ignoring and like trying to manifest things away instead of actually handling things. And then it's like they'll talk about spiritual warfare, and what's the most ironic is when something comes to the dark, or when something from the dark comes to the light to be absolved, to be set right and released, you resuppressing it and resending it back to the dark that it just escaped from keeps that war going. It keeps the fight going. But I guess I shouldn't be surprised, because the whole concept of spiritual warfare in some way is this endless battle between good and evil that is never over. And I don't know, in my mind, it's like let's say that someone from enemy territory in real life, in some kind of war or fight, comes to you because this is a fight that they don't want to fight, right? And they come to you in some kind of amnesty or whatever, and you are so attached to your view of that side that whoever put into your head whatever hierophant that needs you to fight on their behalf, whatever lie they told you or whatever vision they put into your eyes for you to then see. It's like that one episode of Black Mirror when they call those things like roaches or something, and they have these filters. Oh my gosh, it's that Nine of Swords energy. And they have these filters, and one of the people, the roaches, end up creating this device that interferes with the soldiers. They have these like implants that give them all this like tactical advantage and stuff. But what they didn't know is that in the implants, it got those people to see other people as roaches. So after they disrupted his implant, he then got to see that all of the people that he was killing, they were actually people. They weren't these monsters that the government told them that they were. They were actual people, and not the monsters that those lies projected onto his vision. And then he had to struggle with coming to terms with the fact that he out here making a game out of slaughtering people, innocent people, who in this world or in this story, it's like they were potential carriers of certain diseases and they were trying to eradicate diseases. And so basically, it's like, well, once you kill everyone off who's prey or who's susceptible to catching this, then we won't have it anymore. It was genetic cleansing, basically. He didn't know that until his little device broke. And then he went through this whole thing. And I can't remember if he had previously found that out. And he didn't like it, so he had them wipe his memory so he would forget. I think that happened in that episode. And they're like, this isn't the first time that you've discovered this. And he was like, what? He was like, yeah, we can show you the recording where you consented to us doing this again. And then the episode ends. He goes home to his wife that he's been away from. He gets an honorable discharge. He goes home to his wife that he's been away from for years. And then everything is perfect, but what we see is he walked into an abandoned house. So we know that he chose to have his memory wiped again, to have his implant reinstated to the point where it's projecting him into this visit. And like the implant was capable of stimulating physical senses in the brain. I mean, it's electrical impulses. You send an electrical impulse to the brain and then it feels it as if it's real. He's living in this dream, happily ever after, honorable discharge, but in reality, he's living in an abandoned house alone. You buy back into the game, buy back into the lies, because you can't accept the truth of what things really are. Anyway, this energy, especially coming off the Seven of Swords, it's like when we resuppress dark things, when you continue to ignore it, you just increase the tension on that polarity. You make the darkness darker by not bringing to light the things that surface. And in the little world that I'm manifesting, that's not something that I'm interested in carrying forward, honestly. I'm not. It's like I'd rather us tackle, face, address the things that rise, make the world a better place for everybody, and actually progress forward. I'm not interested in 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 250 years ago, 437 years ago, 2 months and 12 days. We had this one transit, so prepare to experience 1437 all over again. And it's like, what, really? So we really just like, and then in my mind, it's like so many people blame like the government, or like the government is trying to control us or whatever. But here you are just happily accepting that this cycle that's literally hundreds of years old, we're going to play out again, because why again? And it's like, how are we manifesting new Aquarius, Age of Aquarius progression, ascension anything, but at the same time, just buying into energizing, refueling centuries old cycles. Unless the age of Aquarius was 500 years ago, I don't know why we're buying into this again. I don't know. It's a people thing. And then here's the Page of Pentacles. I guess I didn't talk about this. So again, these are the conservators. These are the people holding the vision for a new world rather than the people sort of re-perpetrating the old one with that rogue. Again, that comes into the space of the Emperor, where we take charge, where we're willing to do things in a completely new way with the initiate that we haven't experienced before. We're relearning to navigate the world all over again, instead of using previous markers as, oh, we're going to head down this path again for the 15 millionth time in the last, I don't know, 100 years or whatever. These would be those who shepherd. Oh, not shepherd. Ain't nobody trying to have no flock of sheep. Usher in. That's the word I want. These would be those who usher in a new age. And again, it's this integration of every element. And every element is also present on this Four of Pentacles. Earth, air, no, that's water. Water, air, fire, earth. All elements. Here, all elements in this Magician. And then we come into this page that is, I feel like this, for those in this space, these are like little synchronicities that will confirm what it is that you're doing in other spaces. And for me, like, everything I do is mental. Everything I do is in my mind, and it's like between me and spirit or whoever. I don't do like rituals or candle magic or anything like that. Not me particularly. Again, for me, that it never resonated for me. Actually, like, for me personally, like, when I made the decision to buy my first deck, my first 2 decks, it came to me like, no rituals, no candles, no nothing. Like, you don't need it, so don't even look at it. Or it's not don't even look at it, but it was just like, none of that stuff is for you. And that's what I heard before I gave myself permission to get my first deck. Like, all that extra stuff, it's not for me, and so I don't really have too much of an interest. And so that's why I have a few friends now who'll be like, are you doing anything for like the new moon or the full moon? I'm like, no, not really. Because I don't. But also, like, that's what I've been cultivating within myself, is that connection, and is that awareness, and is that facing of things that are difficult and challenging. Because our attention is divine, and it's like scientifically proven that things are changed, things behave differently just because you observe it. And so there are like the smallest of the small, the most primordial of building blocks, the subatomic particles that make up the protons and the electrons and the neutrons and stuff like that. We don't know the true nature of them, because as soon as we look at them, they change. There is no being able to observe something in its natural environment, because scientifically, when we're looking at it, when we're observing it, it has changed. And so, what do we have to gain by ignoring things? I don't know. Like, your attention is divine. Your attention and your intention are divine. So, I don't know. It's just cycles that I'm not interested in repeating anymore, honestly. It's like, that's old. Let's do something new. And then the Five of Wands. Here's the Five of Wands, Saturn and Leo. Was it Jupiter and Leo? It is Jupiter and Leo that is the champion. So we got to make it through Saturn before we get to the Jupiter when it comes to to this. We got to make it through all the karmic things that, you know, people say Saturn is before we get to all the expansion and the blessing that is Jupiter. I'm going to begin moving these up because I guess I need more space. When I say if I got to read the whole deck, I'm going to read the whole deck. I mean it, but I don't necessarily expect to have to do it. Goodness. When is this Archangel of Healing going to go? I feel like, oh, I'm supposed to be positive this week. But I feel like one of those people who's like, oh my gosh, like I'm under a psychic attack or something, or I'm having another dark night. Like, because this healing didn't happen yet. But it's like, girl, well, okay, well, you know, what are you doing? What are we doing to actually make that healing happen? Nothing? Oh, okay, so, like, of course it's just as dark this time. Like, you didn't actually face it. Well, that's that eternal battle between the light and the dark. I'm going to teach you how to be a spiritual warrior by not handling, facing, and addressing all of these things, by increasing the forces of darkness rather than decreasing them by just showing up. I don't know. It's a bunch of old stuff that honestly I'm not interested in. I'm not interested in repeating cycles that I've already done. Like, there's nothing in my past that's so great that I would throw away everything, including the boundless, limitless potential that awaits in the future, to go back and claim it. Like, nah. Now, if it can move forward with me, that's a completely different story. But going back to it as it was, like, I'm not interested. I think the Five of Wands is also a recognition that things may not necessarily be immediate. And so, in that, it's like, basically, we need to have a little bit of stamina to see it through and to keep fighting. If it's worth fighting for, then, like, continue fighting, right? Or it's the repetition of those cycles. Again, it's all determined on what we're conserving with that conservator, right? Initially, the conservator held an energy of those who would kind of sort of see the world made better by actually, you know, handling to the different environmental and what's the word? It's not societal, the different environmental and societal issues that are coming to the surface, rather than, oh, this is gonna boil over into, like, expect this and expect that and this war and those and blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, well, if you don't do anything to handle or address anything, if people have legitimate concerns and you don't address them, then of course there's going to be, like, other actions. But some people are like, oh, I don't know why they're doing this. It's like, girl, okay. Whew, okay, we're getting somewhere. The angel has come out. We've already seen the healer up there, but now the angel is coming. Temperance is coming to balance. Temperance is coming to split seas and to part things. I think. Maybe not. Temperance going into... Look, I got all three of them. Oh, look! There's Jupiter. The Wheel of Fortune, the Wheel of Life, the Defector, and the Blind Seer. So Temperance, the Wheel of Life, the Defector, and the Blind Seer. This is an energy that is moving forward regardless of the physical appearance of things. It's able to see beyond because it's made this journey beyond in their own life. And so when I said that things take time sometimes with that contender and things that are worth fighting for, we should continue to fight for, Temperance, the angel, also understands that. But it bestows it, the wheel turns when we continue to put that energy into it. If you stop pushing something, it's going to stop moving. I think it's heavy enough that we don't necessarily have the momentum to keep it going. Because up here with New World Order coming out before the Scarlet Shield, so completely outside of our control, maybe, depending on who we are, outside of our realm, or our ability to even comprehend and understand, that influence is already moving. And things are going to happen according to that influence. And when it comes to the divine, I just feel like follow the trail of love, or follow the path of love. If something takes you off of that path, then it's probably less than divine. And in my mind, it's like, if you truly love and care for the collective, then it shouldn't be so easy to minimize their problems or treat them as if they don't exist. Because wouldn't love and compassion like listen and remedy and be there? Like, what kind of justice are we manifesting, and have we been manifesting? Where we feel much more comfortable just being like, oh, it's all an illusion, it doesn't exist. Just close your eyes, shut your ears, and keep saying your affirmations. What kind of world does that create? Maybe it creates the one that we're living in right now, and if we can see it, then we can change it. A world where people overlook others because they're not personally suffering, or because they don't want to be exposed to whatever. And again, it keeps the dark pitted against the light. We just keep resuppressing and resuppressing and resuppressing, and then of course it keeps coming back. But with the defector and the blind seer, something has changed. Regardless if you see it or not, regardless if you get on board with it or not, something has changed. This is the erudite, the man with the staff. It can be a woman. It's left this Eight of Cups world behind, and it's moving forward. We see the stars here and the moon. That's an Aquarian, Piscean energy. And the ages progress retrograde, meaning they go backwards through the zodiac. But the planets typically progress non-retrograde. They go forward. Planets typically go from Aries to Pisces. The nodes are retrograde. They'll go backwards through the zodiac. So North Node, Gemini right now, the next North Node will be in Taurus. And apparently the ages go in retrograde. Right, we're going from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, and then it'll be the age of Capricorn after that. Oh my gosh, what would the age of Scorpio be like? Goodness. Maybe that's when like magic comes back and we're like casting spells and stuff or something. I don't know, waving little wands around, and it's like Harry Potter. Maybe not. But it's like some things are moving backwards, other things are moving forward, all moving as intended and designed. So on a grander scale, maybe it is a return. But how we play it, it's a progression. But it seems like we progress in some ways and we regress in other ways. Maybe it's because we got too comfortable. Or it's like a few people make it, a few people do better, and then it's like, well, since I've made it, since I'm not experiencing what you're experiencing, then I see no problem. And again, I don't know how compassionate the world is that would have so many people who are much more keen to just dismiss and ignore things rather than face them or bring justice to them just because it's not something that they personally are affected by. How is that any different than the world we live in now? If that's your, like, if your gateway into the 5D is that, how is that any different than what we experience now? I don't understand how that, like, and it takes me back to the 4th of July. There were a few people I saw who were talking about the fireworks who went off in California. And they're like, this act of defiance, it brought tears to my eyes. It was so beautiful. Like, they were told that they're not supposed to do this, but they did it anyway. And like, this is whatever. And I'm like, okay, but this is literally America. So did you really expect anything different? People not doing what it is that they can do to make life easier and better for everyone. People not willing to suffer inconvenience. Or a country who's a lot more willing to pump money into taking lives and to preserving old systems that stand and are founded on discrimination can pump so much money into that, but when it comes to taking care of people, all of a sudden it's like, oh well, where's the money going to come from? Nothing has been shocking or surprising, and if anything, it should be, and I feel like for a lot of people it has been, it should just be eye-opening on how we just grossly mismanaged and mishandled this whole thing. And still there are people who it's just like not wanting to make any kind of sacrifice at all, so fixed into the carnality of immediate satisfaction that they can't put anything into the future or put anything towards making things better. And it's like all the while people continue to die. I mean, but you know, we don't even have to be talking about COVID. We can just be talking about gun control. It's a thing now. We're just used to mass shootings happening like nowhere is safe. And instead of us doing anything, we just accept it as reality. And it is really interesting to hear certain people talk about, it's like, oh, like look at these sheeple so quick to accept these masks as reality, and like we can't breathe, and it's like the air that we're supposed to breathe, and blah 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 blah, whatever. But how quickly do we accept like the other things? And it's like to not see the parallels there, or to, I don't know, it just, from my perspective, it just like blows my mind. But again, it's just more of people not doing what it is that they need to do for any kind of actual progression. Whatever makes you comfortable in the moment. It's, again, don't call the plumber, just turn the handle and water will come out of the faucet. And it's like, no, we need to get the pipes fixed. And that's why Pluto's in Capricorn right now. That's why everything was passing through Pluto and Capricorn right now. The things in this world cannot long stand the way that they are. And ignoring it is not going to make it any better. Well, here I am through almost the whole deck. The Dark Horse. The Seven of Wands. I feel like this Dark Horse is an energy. It's an energy of things changing, regardless of how much opposition it's faced. And because it's the Dark Horse in this deck, it's been counted out. Because it hasn't succeeded so far. You know how long people have been selfish for? Like, oh, you know, this will happen and they'll care for a little bit. But eventually it'll die down and we can go back to business as usual. And then in another year, another few months, another few years, and it'll rise up again, but then it'll die down again and it'll be back to business as usual. The wheel of life, it's like it keeps going on. It's just like, you know, it's just like we're capable of so much better than this. And then it's like some of the spiritual people that I've come across. And again, I know that I see and hear what I need to see and hear in order to further me along my journey, but it's a little disheartening maybe that there would be those who claim to be headed for the 5D. And I guess what's most disheartening is that there will be those who claim to be coming into some kind of sovereignty, into some kind of power, and what they would choose to do with that power is to ignore and to further suppress and to increase the tension on that polarity, to make the dark even darker. Like that's what you would choose to do with your power. Like, what makes that brand of selfishness any different than anything else that we're currently experiencing? What makes that new or revolutionary? And again, what blows my mind is like how revolutionary some people think it is. But from certain perspectives, it's like this is what we've always been doing. This is nothing groundbreaking. This is nothing new. This won't lead us anywhere that we haven't been before. But again, with this Eight of Cups, something has changed. The Nine of Cups. I mean, I guess what's beautiful about this is that we're going to get there regardless with that Nine of Cups. Here's another Jupiter card, Jupiter in Pisces. I didn't know Jupiter had so many ties to so many of these cards. But like that expansion, that growth, it's going to happen regardless. Jupiter on Pisces on top of the Wheel of Fortune, the Wheel of Life. And again, it takes me back to that one energy of like someone who thinks that they're living a very devout religious or spiritual life. It's more religious. I guess it could be spiritual. And then at the end of their life, they find out that they're in the place that they don't want to be in. And it's like, hey, what gives? Like, I thought I was going to the good place. And you're like, the good place? Like, if the divine is love, like, did you love your family? Yes. Did you love your friends? Sure. You loved all the people who it was easy for you to love. Congratulations. But what about all of the compassion that you didn't show? Like, that's where it actually counts. That's where it actually matters. And it's not that one is more important than the other, but it's, I guess that's what shows the limitations and the limits on your love. That you would sooner buy into a story of the divine who loves all of us, not loving some, and you would suppress through your beliefs others, or you would just like remove yourself from that. And there's a reason why, in the Bible it says it's easier to pass a camel through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to make it into heaven. Because once we're good, once we're set, it's like, I don't know. And then we have the Two of Wands and the Archangel Commander. This Archangel of Healing just is not coming out. I'm really going to go through this whole deck. And I even looked at the bottom of the deck and it was just it was just oh gosh. The Two of Wands into the Archangel Commander. What's steering things has changed. And this is a double Vajra. And there's Two of Wands, Two of Scepters. I don't remember what the double Vajra means. But this discerning one is the Archangel Commander. Again, it's taking me back to that energy of the person who would step into the truth and authenticity and power of their own voice, and who would claim the responsibility and the accountability and all of those things, comes into that emperor level of power, that demiurge level of power that really drives things, and takes that away from the Hierophants that continue. Like, I think some of these Hierophant systems are a lot smarter than people realize. And again, it's like, if your typical level of thinking is, when they say go right, I go left. If they say go up, I go down. If they say go stay inside, I go outside. Like, if you beating the game is making the other choice presented by the game, you're still playing the game. And then some people be like, oh, I'm a free thinker. I'm a free thinker. It's like, your level of free thinking is what? Making the choice that they told you not to make? If that's the extent, then I don't know. It's like, I don't think the game would necessarily be that simple if it is a game. And it's like, this, it's almost like reverse psychology doomsday situation, where those who think that they're acting heroically are actually the ones accelerating things. And I mean, there are many gods of destruction in many cultures, and even in the Bible. Back in the Old Testament days, God flooded the earth, Sodom and Gomorrah went down. It's like, if the ship is going down, sometimes it is for divine reason. And you, it's like, I don't know. But the Two of Wands into the Archangel Commander, the Discerning One and the Archangel Commander, these are those who move things forward. And again, thankfully, things are going to move forward regardless. But I don't know. I guess that's just the question that I would like to pose to people sometimes. It's like, you master manifester, powerful as you are, do you really intend on manifesting a world of people who would ignore the hurt of other people, as you are suggesting that we do right now? Who would claim it as an illusion? Like, do you not realize how much you're just like feeding back into the dark right now? And it's like you're just perpetuating the same cycles. And now the Empress is here. This is a little concerning because the Emperor is up here. The Empress gave the Emperor the Ankh, but now she's down here. I don't know if she's coming to reclaim it. With the Five of Swords, she might be. She gave the Ankh to the Emperor. The Emperor didn't do what it was that he said that he would do, or what it was that needed to be done. So here she's coming back to claim it. He doesn't want to give it back. So it causes this tension and this, I want to say Taurus. The reason why I want to say Taurus is because on the Holy See, I'll try to grab it. We see the papal bull on the head, and in the Five of Swords, it's there again. So that, the energy didn't do what it was originally intended to do with this gift from the Empress. And so the Empress is coming back to take it. And of course, Hierophant doesn't want to sacrifice any of its power. Why would it? And so it creates this unnecessary tension and strain. But Hierophant doesn't fight itself. Hierophant gets you, again, going back to the energy of the Crusades and everything else, Hierophant gets you to fight on its behalf. And in this deck, the Hierophant, it allows and it denies. It permits the information that you get. If you're using a website, if you're using books, if you're using gurus, anybody can restrict and manipulate the information that they give you. But that's why we go beyond the Hierophant and we claim the voice, or we learn the voice of the divine for ourselves. And so if you fall into something so deep that you lose yourself and your core principles and things like that, is that the thing, or is that on you? And again, it's just encouraging people to be more accountable in their own lives. Because accountability is like, with great power comes great responsibility. But you have to prove yourself responsible first. It's not like you get the power and then whatever. Or maybe you do and the Empress comes in and takes it back. So maybe you experience a certain period of success and abundance and growth, but maybe something stops, something halts, something stagnates, and then the Empress, it comes in and pulls it back. You're no longer operating within the alignment of whatever energies that it was that you were originally aligned to. And your abundance has turned into opulence. You've allowed it to blind you. You've fallen into one of those Seven of Cups of the ego. Greed, envy, wrath, sloth, gluttony. The other two. I don't remember. And then and then feminine energy. Oh, I should have. Hold up. I'm going to keep it. And it's in the same column. Feminine energy is really coming back for their power. Because whatever that Emperor, it wasn't handling it right. You see that, the hand sign of the Pope or whatever, in this card, we have the feminine energy and the Ten of Swords that took down that energy. And that hand, look, it's holding up the exact same symbol right there. as it is here. She's coming back because the Hierophant didn't do what it was supposed to do with that. You see right next to my finger, that hand right there? Right there, and then that hand up there. It didn't do what it's supposed to do. 5 of Swords into the 10 of Swords. Things are shifting and they're rebalancing. And maybe with that Wheel of Fortune, some energies that were at the top may find themselves not at the top much longer. Because again, it's like if you would have all of this power, but you would reinforce and recreate a world in which that sort of lack of compassion and separation exists, then why did you have it in the first place? And now we're ending with the 6 of Swords. This ended up being, so there's a lot more involved in this judgment than I thought there was. And I think another reason why it's taken this route is because of that the Ace of Cups up here, where the Knight of Pentacles was looking back towards that Queen of Swords instead of looking at that Ace. Because again, that Ace of Cups, it's that spiritual dissolution, sensory deprivation tank, where it allows us to separate ourselves from what is around us. And without that separation, again, coming off of that Hierophant, it gets us to play out the energies that the Hierophant wants to play. The Hierophant can't fight itself. The congregation of the Hierophant fights on its behalf. And so without that step up there, we're fighting battles that aren't ours, carrying out these things that aren't ours, perpetuating these cycles instead of ending them. We're not doing what it is that we think we're doing. We get to the end of the story and we find out that we were fooled the whole time. But then devil energy comes in and it's like, well, why would the divine ever tell you to do that? Why would the divine tell you to do anything that isn't rooted in love and compassion for others? Does that sound like the divine to you? And you're like, no, of course not. So why did you buy into it as fast and as hard as you did? Because it doesn't matter what the Hierophant said, you should know the divine for yourself well enough to know that it would never tell you to do something like that. But here's like this Titanic energy. Again, because something has changed and things are moving forward regardless. And there will be some who get on these metaphorical arcs that sail onto calmer waters. And there will be others who sort of stay in this energy. And again, it would have been probably significantly easier if the whole world wasn't falling apart right now. But is it? It would be a lot easier to navigate this space of challenge if it wasn't playing on so many scales all at once. But again, it just goes to show that the foundation that this world was built on cannot long stand. And as hard as some systems of religion and spirituality try to buck against the system in a grander scheme, they play into and perpetuate that very system. But there's also something here, and it was in this line up here, where we started with the Four of Swords convalescent. Where is it? And it ended with the Reaper. There is the Reaper. The Healer. It wasn't Sacred Fire, because Sacred Fire was with the Knight of Wands. Oh, I pushed it all up. It was the Lovers. The Lovers, the Healer, the Reaper, and then the Convalescent. And I was like, the Four of Swords is the Reaper. And in between, in us coming to... No. Yeah. But the Reaper was with the Three of Cups, the Kindred. And the Kindred was right under the Politic. Where did the Kindred go? The Kindred have disappeared. They're under this stack. Probably when I pulled up the Holy See, I did it. Because it was the Kindred and the Lovers. The Erudite was with... Was the Erudite with the Healer? I don't remember now. But anyway, there was a line where the Four of Swords and the Reaper came out at the same point, and I said that they're the same energy. And in between, There was an energy that got us to awaken to that. Here is that person holding the sword. This is someone, and it's also holding universal Mercury, which is that magician energy. And this is Mercury in Aquarius, where it's retrograding right now. Something in here is able to see the way forward. And it moves in that way because it's taken up the Ace of Swords. The Ace of Swords that came out after that devil energy. Sacred Cinnabar, the devil. Or maybe it came out after the Force. I don't remember. I moved everything, so now it's like it's shifted. But again, it can't carry anything that is not in alignment with it. And it can't carry anything that is resistant to its flow. And just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you're a divine feminine. And doesn't mean that you're operating in divine feminine energy. Because at the end of the day, divine feminine energy is divine. So it's of love, it's of compassion, and it's of like that unabounding and limitless and unconditional. If your love extends to your immediate family and the people who look like you, then like again, like if you only love the people who it's easy to love, then like what's up with that, you know? And just because we love someone doesn't mean that we don't hold them accountable. But before, and again, it's like Jupiter in this space right now where Saturn is. The way out is there. But the trick is, it's like to pay attention to the signs and to head for a lifeboat before the ship goes down. Because when the ship goes down, everyone's going to be looking to get on a lifeboat. And it may be more passengers than the lifeboat has the capacity to hold. And not every captain goes down with their ship. Some of these high refined energies ain't necessarily going down with the ship. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, I don't know. But at the end of the day, you have free will, you have free choice. And you should know well enough for yourself on your own. Oh gosh, this turned into something I didn't expect it to. And here's the Queen of Cups. That was the Queen of Pentacles. I went looking for the Queen of Pentacles and the Queen of Swords. Why did I think the Queen of Cups? Maybe because I was originally going to look for the Queen of Cups. Or did I look between the Queen of Cups and the Queen of Swords? I think it was the Queen of Cups and the Queen of Swords and not the Queen of Pentacles and the Queen of Swords. I don't remember. So either we're cleaning up from all the way up in here until I hit the Queen of Ebony's shield right here. Either we're cleaning like all of this between here and here, or we're cleaning all of this. Honestly, it seems like this stuff down here is getting cleaned up too. I don't remember if it was the Ivory shield or the Ebony shield that I went looking for with that Queen of Swords when I went and did the cleansing reading. But honestly, from all of this, it was probably the Queen of Swords because it's getting cleansed too. Feminine energy herself is coming down. And I remember it was about a year ago when I saw the Empress, and it was like when the Empress speaks, the earth will quake and open, like the whole world will react to her voice when she speaks. And if all of this is about judgment, like that energy goes beyond just how we treat women and how women treat other women. Not to say that that's not a part of it, but it's like if we can't even have the context to look at 500-year cycles before a conjunction happens again in a certain sign, then what hope have we at contextualizing the entirety of divine energy? There is still an energy of protection here, though, with this Queen of Cups. And I think it's mostly related to this. Because here's the ferryman who knows the water. And then here's the Queen of the Water who's like, will guarantee us safe passage over these waters. And speaking of a water sprite from Pluto in 25 to 26 degrees Capricorn, it reminds me of the Nikki's. It reminds me of the Nikki's from the Demon Tarot. And it was these water spirits who could guarantee like safe passage and who were a lot more prevalent when boats were more of a thing, right? Before like airplanes and stuff like that. When we would have to cross seas and oceans to go from one continent to another before we could fly. And it was like for those who disregard those spirits, then those would be the ones who meet misfortune. But again, that's like something that like if you're carrying an attitude of disrespect or disregard and you meet misfortune on the sea, that's like, it's a little bit of a karmic Six of Pentacles, you get what you give type of energy. But you get what you give in all ways, not only in the ways that you pay attention to and that you expect. After this Queen of Pentacles, or Queen of Cups, is the King of Cups? Nope, is the Page of Wands. Is the Page of Wands. So here is the messenger and emissary of this energy. Whereas we had the messenger and emissary of the water energy all the way up here in the shining, no, not the shining dew, the stronghold of the Grail. And I'm pretty sure it was over here. I need more light. It's getting dark now. It's getting dark. I thought it was over here. The stronghold of the Grail, Page of Cups, wherever she came out. And that was like, do they see it yet? Are they getting it? This is a messenger of the soul. This is the whisper of the divine that's trying to navigate us away from this energy. It's the divine telling us to get on board this lifeboat, to get on board the ship, to realign our energies, to reprioritize, reanalyze, like the way that we engage and interact and imagine the world. Like we need to reanalyze all of that. Again, going all the way back up to that re-navigating or relearning how we navigate life. But not only life, but also now like spirituality, religion, connection in general. And it's coming from the soul. Because again, like this should not sit right with a lot of people. Like Jiminy Cricket is a thing. Like that's why Adam and Eve ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Because at least now we have a concept of being able to know. But since we know now, we're responsible. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. But there's no way to comprehend and appreciate all that is the tree of life without the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Because there's no way to really contextualize choice or alignment without that knowledge. And now we're coming out with the Chariot. Now, is this us moving? It is, because there are two Sphinxes here. Well, I think this Chariot, it's speaking of internal drive. This is cardinal energy. I read the cardinal cross today. 25 to 26 degrees, cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And that energy in Aries, it was all about more gifts than you can hold. Cancer was happiness and contentment and luxury, people reading on Davenports. Libra was an eagle and a large white dove turning into each other. And then Capricorn was a water sprite. And a water sprite is a non-corporeal water spirit being that, and again, it was like not everyone will see it. It speaks to a certain, like, typically purity of heart to be able to see, or a certain alignment, regardless. It speaks of a certain alignment to see that water sprite. But Pluto is the only planet in Capricorn that is sort of playing in that energy. And so it serves as gatekeeper to all of it. So the limitless abundance, more gifts than you can hold, happiness and contentment, like eagle spirit turning into a large white dove, peace, like that's all something that we have to be in alignment to receive. And in a certain way it is happening. But again, it's like if we're not aligning to it, the amount of that we experience will differ. Because again, you have free will and you have free choice. So you could always choose to not. And then the dynasty, the Ten of Pentacles. I think this is the fulfillment of everything that we've been manifesting. It's the fulfillment of the things that we feel are guaranteed to us or that are ours. Maybe we didn't necessarily know that it required all of the things that it's going to require of us to get there. But if you really think about it, it makes sense. Like, how do you get to the world that so many people are manifesting and envisioning from the world that we were in without handling and addressing and facing the things that made it not so? Like, did we think that one day we would wake up and it would just disappear? It was like, oh, it's no longer a thing now. It's like, no. With humanity, with humans, everything comes through the space of choice and action and decision. So you manifesting it gave us the choice. It gave us the ability to make the choices to make it real. And what date was it? Like the 4-4 portal or the 5-5 portal, where there were like global days of manifestation or whatever. They're like, okay, everyone, let's get together, everybody, and manifest this world that we want. And it's like, okay, congratulations, you've manifested the timeline that will make these things known to you. Now, whether or not you will handle them and address them as they come in turn is up to you and your choices. But you have successfully navigated to that destination. It just requires you to do some things within your personal life, within the collective life. And I think it's kind of interesting, maybe not, but I wonder if there's any reflectivity on how people handle and engage collective issues and how they handle their own personal issues. But the dynasty, the fulfillment of that promise is coming through. But again, I think that for me, it's confirming with this chariot energy that that's a self-chariot energy, that we still got to get there. Or that's what's standing behind the Page of Wands. But still, that's the same energy. Page of Wands, messenger of the soul. Like, that's something that you have to put action into. It's wands. And it may be brand new, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. And then we have the Nine of Wands, the Malaise. This is Moon in Sagittarius. This is the Moon on top of the South Node. This is a willingness or a lack thereof, emotionally holding on to all of our previous experiences that may keep us from these new emotional experiences, but not even just emotional, but it's the entirety of connection. This moon is reminding me of the defector right here, and then the necromancer up here. There it is, the necromancer, because it's almost the same moon. And so between the between the defector right here. So here's the defector, here's the malaise. So all of these cards. So what's that? 4, 8, 12, 14-ish cards. We've been holding the line and standing our ground. The dark horse was up here. So that's 4, 8, 12-ish cards from the dark horse, where we were confident in that. Now we're starting to get a little weary. But I mean, like, there aren't that many, there's literally not that many cards left. So the Archangel of Healing is coming. If you've made it this far, don't stop fighting. Continue. Oh, and he's right there. She in this deck, Archangel of Healing, right there. Continue holding the line. Like, don't give up, because it's like it's literally right there. I was kind of sort of low-key hoping that this card would come out after a complete row. But the Archangel of Healing is right here. Because you didn't give up on yourself. Because you continued fighting, even when there was nothing more for you to give. Even when things were difficult. Because you held the line. It's like it's going to be reciprocated to you. And if you take a look back now, you should have noticed some healing being done. The dark night should not be as dark. You may be migrating from, for me personally, it felt like, and I have a video, you can watch it if you want. It's called like Dark Night to Oxunade or something like that. I don't remember what day it was. But there's a difference between like a dark night and a brilliant dawn. The brilliant dawn is when we go back into that dark night space, but instead we're greeted with the rising sun. But since it's a space that's only known darkness, the sun can be blinding, especially when it's our first exposure to it. And so there is a little bit of a tendency to like close your eyes and to recoil a little bit, but you can shield your eyes a little bit if the sun is too bright so you don't go blind, but keep walking forward. And again, it's your personal drive that's going to see you to claim this 10 of Pentacles dynasty. And it's not that it's necessarily easy, but you have what it takes. Archangel of Healing is right there, like right at the finish line. And we've already seen the 10 of Wands like all the way up here. So hey, at least you learned to let something go. This was a complete ride and a half. This was like 5 rides, honestly. And what started as like more like good and bad and a mixture, it's like at one point it got more difficult. It's like the pressure was on. Maybe that's like the longer you sit in a certain energy, the harder it is to sort of make sense of it. But then, like right before you think you're about to break, day breaks. It's the dawn. The sun comes up. You've healed. And it's like you did it on difficulty like 11. And life typically goes up to like 10 at the most. So you should be like good moving forward. What I want to do last is pick one of these from each pile, or from each column, to just be like a closing energy from that. Maybe I could have left the top ones, but that's fine. I know this one was Saturn. I'll pull this one right here. I'm not going to flip it over yet. Oh my gosh, how long have I been live? 3.5 hours. Oh, next time I'm not gonna say. If it give me the whole deck, then I'm gonna read the whole deck. I mean, if it does, I will, because this is what I intended, from Archangel of Glory to the King of Wands. But like I was saying earlier, though, like some of these pieces of us, some of these layers are hidden behind things that we would never go through, things that we've been overlooking and bypassing for a very long time. Oh, that's too dark, it's too difficult, there's too much trauma there. So that liberation behind that we don't get. And there are pieces of our better and best self that we can't project forward because that piece not unlocked yet. Maybe that's why all of this came out, because that's the level of things that we need to go through to really fully, in those moments, be our best and better selves. You don't get to your best and better self by continuing to hide and bypass and ignore. Like if that were the case, then you'd already be your best self. Like there would be nothing else for you to grow into. So the final card from each of these. How many cards do I got down here? Oh, it's only 6 cards. I'm not gonna look at them. I know Justice is at the bottom, even though I'm curious what didn't come out. So the first one is the Shining Dew, which is with the sun above. It's coming into that element of spiritual connection. It's where we hold the Reaper's power within us before it's separated from us and given to someone else. It's a coming together of the Reaper and the horse in that combination. It gives us the ability to perceive with the third eye, and in communication with spirit, it's like we become able to sort of step into different dimensions, higher dimensions. It's a unicorn. For those who believe in and act in alignment with miracles, they're possible and continuously happening. Unicorn. Next It's the will of life. It brings us again into this higher understanding, which sets us on a different course. It takes all of the puzzles and all of the riddles out of it because we're facing it. And it's like, well, yeah, maybe like the wheel of fortune is the wheel of fortune. It could be up, it could be down, it could be whatever. When you're only like half engaged. But when you're more present, more fully present and aware, then you get a greater understanding. Bringing us into the Knight of Wands, which is an energy that I love, because now it's like it's bringing in, like, here's the solar relief at the top. Here's like the actual energy of the sun. We're getting closer into that sun energy. There is also a little bit of a setting energy here where it's like high noon here, which is interesting. But things like the sun is continuing to move. But the Knight of Wands is right here. So it's an energy that's always facing the sun. Because if the sun continued to move, but we didn't continue to move, it would have been dark. And the last card is the Sharpshooter, the Eight of Wands. Really propelling us forward in that situation, in this situation. This is Mercury in Sagittarius. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. Here's Jupiter, that's the ruler of Sagittarius. This is consolidating that North Node, South Node axis. This is us learning what it is that we need to be learning, growing in the ways that we need to be growing, as the North Node is in Gemini and the South Node is in Sagittarius, in the time that it's in Gemini and Sagittarius before the node shift into Taurus and Scorpio. Because Taurus and Scorpio being an axis of abundance and of senses, both physical and spiritual. Like Taurus is like personal abundance, Scorpio is like communal abundance and stuff like that. Like if we can figure it out now, it sets us for when it moves in. And it seems like some of the stuff that we're trying to do is like, that's like North Node Cancer, South Node Capricorn stuff that we should have already have done. But when you're waiting for the transit to try to do it, you're already behind because the planet is already there. And there's a way to sync up and naturally align with those cycles, so you're not waiting for a marker to begin to do it. You just naturally kind of sort of are already there, are already doing what the opportunity is now there for you to do. And that's how you stay on top of the wheel. The only way to stay on top of the wheel is to continue like moving. Ooh, I almost just missed these all the way up. All the way up. I forgot I wasn't looking at the bottom of the decks. Well, there's the Ten of Pentacles. I thought the Ten of Pentacles with the Memory Keeper. I love that. Because that is a return to a golden age, a golden era, happier times. But it's a renovated that. It's like it's setting that into the future rather than trying to go back into the past. Oh, goodness. Oh, golly. I did not necessarily expect to be in here this long. Well, oddly enough, though, like my throat isn't super dry right now. I'm not like starving. So, there we go. I am going to see what the last card is. Five of Swords and the Queen of Wands. That's like, choose ye this day who you will serve, and you can't serve two masters, things like that. The Discerning One and the Sharpshooter, Two of Wands, Eight of Wands, which is a Ten of Wands. But that Two of Wands, Eight of Wands isn't bad. I know last time I saw the Two of Wands, Eight of Wands, it was with patience. I trashed it a little bit because it was an energy of like, it doesn't have... Oh, we didn't see the sun. The sun didn't come out. The warrior never popped out. So that was one of the cards. Oh, that's interesting. We didn't see the sun in all of that. The sun exists outside of that. But after the Archangel of Healing, we experienced that sun energy. Because that was an energy that like it has no stamina. So when things get difficult, it quits and it leaves. Right? But this Two of Wands, it's like the Discerning One and the Sharpshooter. So that's an energy that was able to like see the path forward, able to trust and to go full force. Now the cards that came out, and that was what Aries and Sagittarius energy, Now Leo is coming out in the sun with the Ace of Cups, holy water. This is the warrior that comes from that healed space with the Ace of Cups, where we find out what is us, what is not us, what is truly important to us, what is imprinted upon us by society and the other hierophants around us. Bottom of the deck is the Six of Swords, the Ferryman. This is, again, Mercury and Aquarius. And here's the sun. It's Aquarius season right now. Ace of Cups is there. And that's what I got. I hope y'all have a good whatever whenever you see this, and I hope you're acting in alignment to make that what you wish to experience your reality. And I hope you are also taking at least into consideration sometimes, if everything is a reflection of something else, then how does the way that you show up and interact with other people in the world, like what kind of world, or like what kind of energy are you putting out into the world that is being sort of reflected back to you? In all ways, or more ways than what you typically expect, right? It's more than just, oh, on a good day, you know, I give to the homeless and I do this and I do that. It's a more complete reflection. So, and you're not great. Like at your worst, what are you putting out into the world? Because you're also going to get that back. And it's about not only raising the ceiling, but also increasing the bottom line, right? Because we're always going to experience a range, but your range could be good, better, best, instead of absolutely abysmal and okay, or like really, really, really bad and good, right? No one says that, you know, there are brighter lights than other lights. It doesn't have to be pitch black all the time, I don't think. But, you know, whatever. I'll catch y'all later. Maybe in a week. Well, honestly, like 3 days, because 3 hours. I don't know. All right, bye.